Chapter 573. The bottle that the Black Talisman Lord had thrown exploded in the air and turned into a red mist. The moment the fleshy feelers of the devouring bug came into contact with the red mist formed by countless tiny droplets, it retracted its feelers and opened its mouth to suck the red mist into its mouth. The red liquid was the modification fluid, which was also known as the protocell of the superstar god Hall. A stargrade cultivator only needed a small drop to advance from the stargrade to the superstar god realm. The energy contained in it was estimated that even the beast cores of great stargrade exotic beasts couldn't compare to it. This bottle of modification fluid could allow hundreds of stargrade cultivators to advance to the superstar god realm. However, it had all been swallowed by the devouring bug. After swallowing so much modification fluid, the devouring bug's body started to squirm. A strange smile appeared on the Black Talisman Lord's face as he nodded at his black-robed companions. These people were the Black Talisman Lord's subordinate. They were all Talisman Dao experts who had reached the Great Star-Lord realm after being modified. Dozens of figures moved in a flash and surrounded the devouring bug while it was still growing. Everyone's position seemed to have been calculated. When the Black Talisman Lord gave the order, the dozens of people raised their hands at the same time. Their hands flashed as they shouted in unison. Invisible rune energy was released from their hands and enveloped the devouring bug. Although the devouring bug was still growing, it could sense the danger. It opened its mouth and let out a roar as it struggled violently. The dozens of black-robed men's expressions turned grave. They remained motionless and some of them even gritted their teeth. These people were enduring the immense power of the devouring bug at the same time. Fortunately, the devouring bug was still a planet-grade exotic beast. Thus, it wasn't impossible for these people to resist its power. The Black Talisman Lord didn't make a move personally. When he saw that the devouring bug was temporarily under control, he took out a sharp spike engraved with runes from his storage bracelet. This spike was about a meter long and as thick as an arm. It looked like a nail. This was a talisman artifact specially used to tame exotic beasts. The Black Talisman Lord moved and appeared above the devouring bug's huge head. He then threw the spike in his hand at the devouring bug's head. The black spike pierced through the tough scales and nailed itself into the engulfing insect's head. At the same time, a powerful rune energy fluctuation spread from the devouring insect's body. Black Talisman Lord waved his hand and the dozens of black-robed men immediately retracted their rune energy and retreated into the distance. When the devouring insect saw the Black Talisman Lord, it flicked the fleshy feelers on its mouth towards him. Black Talisman Lord sneered. His palms faced each other as he rapidly made a few hand gestures. Circles of runic energy waves emanated from his palms. Woo! The devouring bug suddenly let out a painful roar and retracted its tentacles. His body tumbled in the void. A few minutes later, Black Talisman Lord stopped releasing rune energy. The devouring worm finally stopped feeling pain and slowly calmed down. The intelligence of this devouring insect was roughly equivalent to a 3-year-old human child. The painful process did not teach it a lesson. When it saw Black Talisman Lord, it extended its tentacles again, wanting to devour him. Black Talisman Lord sneered. Once again, he released the rune energy to control the rune artifact. Once again, the devouring insect was in pain. After a few times, the devouring insect finally became obedient. It no longer dared to attack Black Talisman Lord as it was filled with fear. By then, Black Talisman Lord was already standing on top of the devouring insect's huge head with a smile. He was very satisfied with the results of this training. This was only the first step. Next, he needed to train the devouring insect even more meticulously so that it could understand his words and follow his orders. It was all thanks to the modification liquid. Otherwise, the devouring insect would not be able to withstand the energy from the rune artifact. After a few more rounds, the devouring insect had absorbed a large amount of energy, but it had stopped growing. Black Talisman Lord had no lack of modification liquid. He took out another bottle of modification liquid from his sleeve and flew it to the devouring insect's mouth. The devouring insect's countless black eyes stared at Black Talisman Lord, but it did not dare to move. Black Talisman Lord smiled and opened the bottle. For the devouring insect, there was a red liquid that was extremely tempting. The devouring insect's bestial instincts took over the moment it smelled the modification liquid. The fleshy feelers on its mouth moved again and swept towards Black Talisman Lord. Black Talisman Lord quickly dodged, put away the modification liquid, and released the rune energy again. After a few more rounds, the devouring insect finally understood that it could not harm the black-robed human no matter what. Otherwise, it would suffer immensely. The devouring insect slowly extended a feeler and carefully placed the bottle into its mouth when it saw Black Talisman Lord hand it the bottle. The devouring insect grew rapidly with the help of the modification liquid. Although this strange beast was not as intelligent as humans, its body was extremely perfect. As long as it had enough energy, it could continue to evolve. After absorbing 2 bottles of modification liquid, the devouring insect's body grew bigger again. Within a few hours, its body had reached 10,000 meters long. The original scales on its body had fallen off, and after its body had stabilized, red scales had grown on its body. Judging from the aura emanating from the devouring insect, it had already advanced to the star grade. After becoming stronger, the devouring insect had also become smarter. Black Talisman Lord did not give up on strengthening this strange beast. He took out another bottle of modification liquid. A few days later, after swallowing more than 10 bottles of modification liquid, the devouring insect had turned golden. It had reached the peak Star-Lord level. Furthermore, its body was so large that it could easily devour a planet. Black Talisman Lord was finally satisfied and stopped strengthening this strange beast. If he had continued, the rune treasure in its body would not have been able to control it. In order to teach this strange beast, which was as intelligent as an 8 or 9-year-old child, a lesson, Black Talisman Lord made it suffer again. Next, it would be instructing and training it. On the Flame Planet. Another night, after practicing a set of saber techniques, Yang Nancy removed the red armor on its body at Yang Tian's request. Yang Tian used his mind power to observe Yang Nancy's body again. Yang Tian had been trying for several days. Every time he tried to use his mental power to capture the red energy that was moving between the cells in Yang Nancy's body, the energy would disappear. After the first failure, Yang Tian asked Yang Nancy about it. Yang Nancy did not know that such energy existed in its body. Although the Yang people had red hair, in fact, most of them cultivated the power of meridians. It was the same for Yang Nancy. Yang Nancy's answer made Yang Tian believe that the strange red energy was Yang Nancy's bloodline power. The power of the bloodline was originally scattered in the cells. It required special cultivation to gather them together and form a powerful energy. Jade Sun Nancy had never cultivated the power of a bloodline, but he possessed it. This meant that the Jade Sun clan had a special talent for cultivation. It was just that this talent had not been discovered. Yang Tian was someone who would not give up until he achieved his goal in cultivation. After several attempts, he also realized that the energy would only exist in Yang Nancy's body after a period of training. Normally, no matter how Yang Tian looked, he could not find traces of the energy. This time, Yang Tian divided his mental power into countless streams and sent them into Nanyang Nancy's body. After searching for a while, Yang Tian finally found traces of the red energy again. The energy was like a cunning snake. As soon as Yang Tian's mind power came close, it wanted to escape. With a flash of thought, countless streams of mind power began to surround the red energy. In an instant, Yang Tian's mind power formed a big net and wrapped the red energy. Unable to escape from the red energy, The next change caused Yang Tian to be shocked. It suddenly condensed into a red ball of light that emitted a dazzling light. Even with this change, Yang Tian did not want to let go of it. Following that, the red ball of light suddenly enlarged and produced a resistance force that wanted to break free from Yang Tian's mind power net. The enlarged red ball of light's surface was not smooth. Under the dazzling light, countless runes appeared. This was why Yang Tian was shocked. There were runes in this energy. What kind of energy was this? Sensing the strange program in Yang Tian's mind, it said to Yang Tian, "It is a type of seal, an energy that seals bloodlines." Yang Tian finally understood that the red energy was not Yang Nanxi's bloodline power. On the contrary, it was a type of sealing energy, a special energy used to seal the power of bloodlines. In his shock, Yang Tian's mind power loosened a little. The strange program reminded Yang Tian in a timely manner, "Calm down, I need to read the runes on it." Yang Tian gritted his teeth and persevered. He began to transfer more mind power into Yang Nanxi's body. Chapter 574. In Yang Tian's vision, the bloodline seal grew bigger and bigger. It was just a tiny bit, but it suddenly erupted with such powerful energy. This was beyond Yang Tian's expectations. Yang Tian had no choice but to mobilize more of his mind power to suppress it. This did not conform to the laws of energy at all. Yang Tian did not see more energy replenishing the bloodline seal, so why was it growing stronger? With this doubt, Yang Tian tried his best to persevere. As the bloodline seal grew bigger, the runes on it became clearer as well. Yang Tian used his mind power to see the runes clearly. "Yang Tian, there's a teleportation formation on this bloodline seal. This teleportation formation continuously transmits the seal's energy," the strange program suddenly said. This was too magical. Who planted this kind of energy in the bloodline of the Jade Sun race? Their hatred for the Jade Sun race is too deep. Yang Tian frowned as he thought to himself. Yang Tian had the bloodline of the Jade Sun race. Could there be such a seal in her body as well? The strange program continued. This seal mainly targets bloodline power. If she cultivates Chi Meridian power, there won't be any effect. This was probably why most people in the Jade Sun race cultivated Chi Meridian power. Since he had discovered this seal, he had to break it. Yang Tian was very curious. If this bloodline seal was broken, what would happen if Yang Nanxi could cultivate Chi Meridian power? After a while, the strange program said, "It's done. I've finished reading all the runes on it. You still can't break it now. Withdraw your mind power. Otherwise, your woman will be greatly harmed." Next, Yang Tian slowly withdrew his mind power and no longer suppressed it with his powerful mind power. As Yang Tian's mind power decreased, the bloodline seal also gradually shrank. When Yang Tian withdrew the last bit of his mind power, the seal returned to its original state and disappeared in a flash. Phew! After opening his eyes, Yang Tian let out a long breath. Yang Nanxi was sitting in a cross-legged position. When Yang Tian opened his eyes, he saw that Yang Nanxi's face was pale and his body was covered in sweat. When the seal's power exploded, the energy in Yang Nanxi's body was affected and became somewhat explosive. She listened to Yang Tian's words and insisted on ignoring it. The chaotic energy in her body caused her great pain. Under the dim light, Yang Tian felt his heart ache as he watched Yang Nanxi experience pain. This undoubtedly showed that Yang Nanxi trusted Yang Tian a lot. Even if Yang Tian really wanted to kill her, she wouldn't resist. When the energy in his body calmed down, Yang Nanxi opened his eyes. His body felt weak and he fell to the ground. Yang Tian immediately went forward and hugged Yang Nanxi, murmuring, "It's all right, it's all right." Moments later, Yang Nanxi fell asleep. After putting Yang Nanxi on the bed in the tent, Yang Tian then returned to the Black Dragon ship. The little blue dragon wasn't with Yang Tian at this time. He was looking at Yang Tian. Yang Tian didn't expect his son to be so hard-working. He didn't even rest in the middle of the night and went to a place where no one was around to train. Yang Tian was worried about him, so he had the little blue dragon watch from the side. Yang Tian, who had the dragon's bloodline, was also very energetic. As soon as he returned to the ship, Yang Tian washed up and changed into a clean set of clothes. He then entered the Black Dragon ship's storage cabin. He took out a green stone for carving runes, a talisman pen, and various cutting tools. Yang Tian then handed over control of his body to the strange program. With Yang Tian's cooperation, the strange program quickly created a stone the size of a basketball and carved runes on it. This was the model of the seal's power. Looking at this model, Yang Tian began to think about how to break the bloodline seal in Yang Nanxi's body. The strange program was also calculating in the bug brain pendant on Yang Tian's neck. The intelligence that humans possessed was incomparable to all other intelligent programs. The reason was that humans could have fantastic ideas and imagination, but intelligent programs could only calculate based on the information they obtained. This time, it was Yang Tian who came up with the idea first. The reason why the seal was difficult to break was because there was a teleportation formation that sent energy from an unknown place. An analogy could be made. Every bloodline seal in the body of a Yang was a tributary that connected to the sea. What if he drilled a hole and drained the sea? As long as there was no energy replenishment, Yang Tian could use his mental power to destroy the seal's power in a matter of minutes. After coming up with a solution, Yang Tian said to the strange program, "I have an idea. I'll carve a huge talisman formation to draw out the power and destroy it." The strange program had recorded the teleportation formation on the seal, so this step could be completed at least. The program said, "This can be done, but the power needs to be consumed in order to be transmitted. How do you consume it?" In Nanxi's body, the seal's power could be continuously transmitted through a special teleportation formation because of Yang Tian's mental power. Yang Tian had thought of this problem long ago. He immediately took out a stone box from his storage bracelet. This stone box was used by the Flying Cloud High Priest to store beast cores. After taking out the beast cores inside, Yang Tian did not throw them away. This was because the stone box was also a kind of treasure. By putting things that emitted energy inside, it could ensure that the energy would not leak out. After opening the stone box, a blood-red ball of flesh the size of a finger could be seen in the middle of the box. These cells were taken from the mysterious young man's corpse by Yang Tian with a talisman pen. These cells contained great power, and at the same time, their capacity was astonishing. Yang Tian had tried it before, and it was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much power it took, it could swallow it. If the seal's power was absorbed by these cells, what would happen? After some calculations, the strange program said, "Your idea has a 70% chance of being realized." 70% was not bad. After the program confirmed Yang Tian's idea, Yang Tian smiled and said, "Let's get started." All the tools and materials were in Yang Tian's storage bracelet. Yang Tian immediately had the ship's smart operating system open the hatch. After landing on the Flame Star, Yang Tian flew to a desolate place on the Flame Star and took out a giant stone with a diameter of dozens of meters from his storage bracelet. This cyan stone was stored in Yang Tian's silver storage bracelet when he cleaned up the mighty sky warship. If the mighty sky warship could be made of this cyan stone, it shouldn't be a problem to carve a rune array for transmitting energy on it. The strange program had already calculated the rune array for transmitting energy. Yang Tian took out the large talisman pen given to him by the Flying Cloud Great Priest. Then, the strange program controlled Yang Tian's body to carve on the cyan stone with the large talisman pen. Not long after Yang Tian left the Superstar Academy, the virtual combat system of Star Royal was finally reopened. The reopened system was no different from before. Star Royal still didn't know that the real program segment had run away. The current system was just a copy. After the system was reopened, at least 2/3 of the players were gone. Even so, Star Royal's daily income could be described as astronomical. In fact, very few people knew that at least half of Star Royal's income didn't belong to him. There was a mysterious and powerful organization above him. Ever since Yang Tian disappeared, Star Royal had been monitoring the system for a long time. He was very interested in the player called Xiaolong. It was worth mentioning that the strange program had changed all the data and information related to Yang Tian when it left. Therefore, Star Royal couldn't find out who Yang Tian was in reality. Star Royal. While Star Royal was looking at the data of the virtual combat system, a man covered in a black robe suddenly appeared behind him. The mysterious man's voice sounded very hoarse when he said the words Imperial Star. Startled, Star Royal immediately turned around. Seeing the mysterious man, Star Royal immediately bowed and said, "Lord Heavenly Hun." Chapter 575. The black-robed man nodded and took out a chip. He handed it to Yu Xing and said, "This old man needs to use your system to decipher this chip. The information recorded on it is rune information." Seeing the chip in the black-robed man's hand, Yu Xing's eyes lit up. He said in surprise, "Lord Heaven Hun, you found this chip? That's great." As he spoke, Yu Xing extended his hands and respectfully received the chip. This was an ancient chip. It was black in color and was not as small as the chips of today. It was palm-sized and looked like a disc made by humans on Earth. After receiving the chip, Yu Xing placed it into the card reader. Under Yu Xing's command, the system began to read the chip and decipher the password in the data. This would take some time. Looking at the runes flashing in front of them, the two were silent for a long time. This person called Heaven Hun standing at the side made Yu Xing feel a lot of pressure. In order to break the silence, Yu Xing casually asked, "Lord, I have obtained the chip. I wonder if the mature seed of the world tree." "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Before Yu Xing could finish, he was interrupted by Heaven Hun. Yu Xing did not dare to ask again. "The data has been successfully read." A few minutes later, the system sounded out. Although the current Star Imperial system was just a copy of the strange program, its deciphering ability was very powerful. It was not something an AI program made of numbers could compare to. After the deciphering was completed, the system displayed a star map. It turned out that there was a star map stored on this ancient chip. Looking at the star map, Heaven Hun smiled and said, "This star map is written with simple runes. If not for your system, who knows how long it would take to decipher it manually." Hearing Heaven Hun praise the system named after him, Yu Xing was very pleased and smiled. The read star map was converted into a digital format by the Star Imperial system and stored on a small chip. In front of Heaven Hun, Yu Xing took out the chip and had the system delete all the deciphering process and the backup of the star map. Heaven Hun was very satisfied with Yu Xing's actions. He took out a golden superstar warlord level beast core and threw it to Yu Xing. Superstar level beast cores were very rare and could not be bought with money. Receiving the beast core, Imperial Star could not help being overjoyed as he said, "Thank you, Lord Heaven Hun." Heaven Hun nodded. He raised his hand and looked at the two chips in his hand. Crack! Under Star Imperial's gaze, heavenly chaos crushed the ancient crystal into pieces, and then crushed it into powder. After storing the new chip that stored the star map into his storage bracelet, Heaven Hun prepared to leave. However, at this moment, he felt the pendant around his neck vibrate. Under the black mask, Tian Hun frowned. His figure flashed and disappeared from Star Royal's sight. After Sky Hun left, Imperial Star could not help heaving a sigh in relief. When Tian Hun reappeared, he had already arrived at a planet covered in red sand and rock. The temperature was extremely high. Tian Hun appeared on the planet and after pausing for a moment, he dove into the sand. Soon, he appeared in a vast underground space. This space was rectangular in shape, hundreds of meters high, and thousands of meters in length and width. The rocks that made up this space were like red amber, sparkling and translucent, emitting a blood-red glow. In the middle of this spacious space there was a huge pyramid. The tip of the pyramid was about to reach the top of this space. This huge pyramid was engraved with runes that were flashing and emitting a red halo. On the periphery of this pyramid were circles of ditches, flowing with a sparkling red liquid. It looked like the rocks that made up this space had melted and turned into liquid. If one looked down from the top of this space, they would discover that these ditches flowing with red liquid actually formed a massive rune array. And the massive pyramid stood in the center of the rune array. Outside this massive and strange rune array, 6 towering steels were also particularly conspicuous. Each steel was several dozen meters tall and about 20 meters wide, like the tip of a sword piercing out of the ground. These 6 steels were all carved with pictures. After arriving in this space and landing on the ground, Tianhun removed the black cloak covering his head, revealing a face covered in wrinkles. In a flash, Tianhun arrived below the first steel. He raised his head and looked at the first steel for more than 10 minutes. Then, he flashed to the second steel and finished looking at all the pictures on the 6 steels. When he first arrived, Tianhun's expression was still relatively calm. But when he finished looking at the 6 steels, a look of hatred appeared on his face. In fact, the pictures on the steels were very simple and direct. It depicted the scene of a race being exterminated by another race. In the universe, fighting between races was a very normal thing. The so-called extermination was actually the ruler of one race killing the ruler of another race and enslaving the people of the defeated race. And what was depicted in the picture was the victorious race slaughtering the defeated race, not even sparing the women and children. It was worth mentioning that the scene of the battle depicted in the picture was extremely grand. The bodies of the powerhouses that appeared could become very large. It could be seen by comparing the mountains and flying spaceships in the picture. The Jade Sun clan and the Jade Een clan, 2 powerful clans, disappeared from the universe just like that. Now that the Jade Sun clan has this seal, they can no longer use this powerful bloodline power. It would be great if they could absorb this energy and turn it into their own energy. The anger on Tianhun's face quickly disappeared. He looked at the red liquid in the ditch and muttered. From his words, it could be heard that Tianhun was not a person of 2 different races. In fact, the organization that Tianhun formed was an organization that collected the universe's treasures. Treasures that could catch the eyes of this organization were very rare in the universe. For example, the seeds of the world tree, various powerful runic artifacts, and even the corpses of famous people. In order to achieve their goal, they were unscrupulous. In order to obtain the seeds of the world tree, they were even willing to destroy the Lugia starfield. Many famous powerhouses in the universe secretly joined this organization. For example, the Eternal Life Temple's Black Talisman Lord. This underground space was one of the results of this organization. If one entered from the outside without the pendant on Tianhun's neck, even a great star god realm cultivator would not be able to discover that there was such a space on this planet. It had been many years since he obtained this space. Tianhun himself could not remember the number of times he had entered. Tianhun really wanted to absorb the energy here and turn it into his own energy. This way, his realm would surpass that of a great star god, and he would have the ability to break through the universe's barrier. Even if he did not use the Wei-Kong warship, he could still go to the legendary higher-level universe. However, after countless experiments, Tianhun was still unable to do so. Recalling the abnormal reaction of the pendant on his neck, Tianhun pulled it off his chest. At first glance, this pendant did not look conspicuous. It looked like an ordinary oval ruby. However, if one used a magnifying glass to look at it, they would discover that there were 3-dimensional runes inside. These runes formed a talisman array that was directly connected to the array in this space. As long as there was any abnormal movement in this array, this pendant would react. The pendant had only moved a little, and then there was no reaction. Tianhun looked at the pendant in his hand for a long time before putting it back on his neck. He did not leave. Instead, he stayed here to keep watch. After living for so long, Tianhuan's patience was unparalleled. He decided to stay here for a very long time. Perhaps the formation before him would bring him a pleasant surprise. It took no less than 3 days for the strange program to control Yang Tian's body to finish inscribing the talisman array. This talisman array did not completely copy the talisman array used to seal energy. Instead, the strange program had modified it according to the plan that Yang Tian had come up with. After collecting enough rune information, it became very easy for the strange program to solve anything related to runes. After inscribing the talisman array, Yang Tian took out the stone box containing the mysterious youth's cells from his storage bracelet. Opening the lid of the stone box, Yang Tian used a talisman brush to pick up this strange-looking ball of flesh and placed it in the center of the talisman array. Next, Yang Tian placed 6 pieces of stellar crystals in the 6 grooves at the edge of the talisman array. This was a talisman array used to transmit energy. It did not require a lot of energy. As long as the talisman array was activated, it did not require stellar crystals to provide energy. After placing the 6 pieces of stellar crystals, the strange program controlled Yang Tian's body and used a large talisman brush to inscribe something on the edge of the talisman array. This was an energy line that connected 2 runes. When this energy line was completed, the blue boulder that held the talisman array suddenly trembled. At the same time, the runes that made up the talisman array and the countless energy lines all lit up, emitting a red light. Yang Tian stood about 10 meters away from the talisman array, his eyes fixed on the ball of cells in the center of the array. After trembling for a moment, the boulder calmed down. This was because the ball of cells had already begun to absorb energy. These cells had an especially large appetite. When they began to absorb energy, the red light emitted by the runes and energy lines dimmed significantly. Seeing this, Yang Tian knew that he had succeeded. Now, it all depended on how much energy these cells could absorb. Yang Tian did not believe that the energy used to seal the Jade Sun race's bloodline could be extracted endlessly. There had to be a limit. Perhaps there was a place somewhere far away that specialized in storing this kind of sealed energy. The real situation was the same as what Yang Tian had thought. After the talisman array was activated, the space where Tianhun was located started to tremble. At this moment, the pendant hanging around his neck started to shake as if it was dancing. This space was the place where the Jade Sun race's bloodline was sealed. Chapter 576. The strange changes in space made Heavenhun nervous. Tens of thousands of years had passed since he found this strange space, but it hadn't changed at all. It seemed incomparably quiet. Several times, Heavenhun couldn't help but absorb this energy. But as soon as this energy entered his body, it became disobedient and produced an extremely strong rejection reaction with his own energy. This was a normal phenomenon. He just needed to use his own energy to devour it. But when this energy resisted his own energy, it actually condensed into a sphere. Strange runes flashed on its surface as it grew stronger and stronger. After realizing the danger, Heavenhun could only force this energy out of his body. He faintly guessed that this was some kind of sealing energy. But this energy was too abundant. To Heavenhun, it was like a treasure trove that he couldn't use for the time being. He couldn't bear to give it up. Now that this space was beginning to change, Heavenhun was filled with anticipation. He hoped that after this space changed, he would be able to unravel the mysteries of this space and find a way to use this energy for himself. He had already waited for a long time. Would this wish come true? But soon, Heavenhun discovered that something was wrong. This was because the red liquid was rapidly decreasing. The huge pyramid in the center of the array seemed to be operating at high speed. The runes on it grew brighter and brighter, emitting a somewhat dazzling light. On the flame star, Yang Tian had been staring at the meatball in the center of the array all this time. At this time, Yang Tian realized that the energy these cells could hold wasn't limitless. After absorbing enough energy, it actually began to change. First, the color changed from scarlet to blood red. It was sparkling and translucent, just like a ruby. Then, the cells began to divide, giving birth to new cells. The meatball grew larger and larger. Yang Tian's eyes widened. After the cells split, would they form a new human body? If that was the case, would that mysterious youth be able to come back to life? At this time, Yang Tian was both expectant and nervous. The energy delivered by the array grew stronger and stronger, and the meatball split faster and faster. What happened next exceeded Yang Tian's expectations. The meatball did not grow into a human body. Instead, it grew into a red mushroom at an extremely fast speed. As it absorbed more and more energy, the mushroom grew bigger and bigger. As it grew, the large mushroom did not emit any energy waves at all. It had been less than half an hour since it started absorbing the energy, but it was already more than 10 meters tall. The diameter of the mushroom head was also more than 10 meters. Just as Yang Tian thought it would continue to grow, the mushroom suddenly stopped. Then, the mushroom head began to elongate, drooping down and falling softly, covering the entire glyph array, forming a semicircular red sphere that enveloped the glyph array. This change did not affect the operation of the talisman array. Instead, it absorbed energy faster and faster. Even if the mysterious young man's body was incomparably strong, there was still a limit to the division and growth of cells. From a meatball the size of a finger to a semicircular sphere with a diameter of tens of meters, the original cells had split and grown countless times. After turning into a semicircular sphere, it stabilized and did not change again. About an hour or so had passed. In the space where Tian Han was, the liquid energy in the ditch that formed the huge glyph array was still rapidly decreasing. Since the beginning of the change, the energy here had decreased by at least 2/3. If it continued to decrease at this rate, Tian Han could imagine that the energy would definitely dry up. What should he do? Tian Han frowned and pondered. Unless he destroyed the red pyramid in the middle, because the disappearance of the energy was definitely related to that pyramid. However, after the pyramid was destroyed, the glyph array would also cease to exist. Whether it could still seal the energy was unknown. The existence of the glyph array was the reason the energy had been preserved for all eternity. Tian Han's current feeling was like a poor man seeing his treasure mountain being dug out by someone else, and it would soon be finished. If the energy here was really the sealed energy, then in some unknown part of the universe, someone must be trying to break the seal. Thinking of this, Tian Han felt somewhat terrified. What kind of person would use up more than half of the energy here when trying to break the seal, and it was still being used up? Tian Han looked at the huge pyramid. Suddenly, his figure flashed and he disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he was already at the entrance of the pyramid. The entrance was at the top of the pyramid. It was a square entrance that was about 5 meters long and wide. The entrance was sealed by a powerful energy. Tian Han wanted to enter the pyramid, but he could not enter no matter how many times he tried. Bang! Sensing that the energy at the entrance had become much weaker, Tian Han immediately dove into the entrance and let out a loud boom. This time, he successfully broke through the energy defense at the entrance and entered the pyramid. As soon as he entered the pyramid, Tian Han saw a hexagonal array below. It was clearly a teleportation array. The 6 corners of the array were connected to the ditch outside. The red liquid was quickly flowing through the 6 corners and into the array, disappearing. Tian Han finally found the source of the energy's disappearance. It was just as he had expected. Tian Han, who was floating in the space of the pyramid, looked at the huge energy teleportation array and hesitated about whether he should destroy it. Before Yang Tian's eyes, when the red semicircular sphere stopped changing, the energy was still being transferred. Soon, the energy it had absorbed reached a state of saturation. Even the cells of a grand astral god cultivator would explode after absorbing too much energy. But the cells that formed the semicircular sphere were extremely stable. When there was too much energy, it would be released. Bzzz. Suddenly, the red sphere began to vibrate and let out a buzzing sound. At the same time, powerful energy was released from it and spread out in all directions. This was a formless energy. It was very pure without any impurities. It flowed out like pure water and only gave off a calm and faint energy fluctuation. Sensing this energy, Yang Tian could not help but be stunned. The energy that the red sphere was absorbing was not like this at all. Could it be? A thought suddenly appeared in Yang Tian's mind. Then, Yang Tian released a strand of mind power, enveloping a strand of energy released by the red sphere and absorbing it into his body. The origin power in his body devoured the energy as soon as it came into contact with it. After devouring the energy, his origin power grew a little stronger. There were no side effects in the process. After this experiment, Yang Tian realized that the energy released by the red sphere could be absorbed. It was pure energy that was safe and non-toxic. Yang Tian sat down with his legs crossed in excitement and released powerful mind power, enveloping the entire red sphere. He used his mind power to wrap the energy released by the red sphere and sent it into the origin realm in his body. Due to the origin realm's uniqueness, Yang Tian had to devour a Grand Astral Lord Beast Core if he wanted to advance to the Grand Astral Lord realm in a short time. However, such beast cores were extremely rare and difficult to find. Now, with this energy that was even purer than beast cores, Yang Tian could advance again. In that sealed space, Yang Tian had already reached the peak of the Stellar Region Lord realm. He only needed to absorb enough energy to advance to the Grand Astral Lord realm. Now was a good opportunity. At this moment, Yang Tian hoped that the source of the sealed energy would not dry up so quickly. Apart from himself, the little blue dragon also needed this energy very much. Before Yang Tian started this plan, he had never thought that this ball of flesh would become such an energy purifier after absorbing enough energy. Chapter 577. After the red ball's energy was saturated, it released a huge amount of energy. Yang Tian could not absorb all the energy, so he had to open up an opening to let the excess energy escape. The little blue dragon was extremely sensitive to energy. When it sensed the energy fluctuations coming from Yang Tian, it immediately flew over. Feeling the purity of the energy, the little blue dragon was extremely excited. It transformed into a giant dragon and flew above the red ball. It opened its mouth and inhaled. All the energy that Yang Tian could not absorb was sucked into its mouth. Yang Tian knew that the little blue dragon would not let go of this opportunity. He glanced at the little blue dragon, smiled, and then closed his eyes. With the influx of energy, Yang Tian's original realm once again expanded at an extremely fast speed. Originally, the planets in the original realm within his body had already formed a spiral galaxy. It was slowly rotating and occupied more than half of the original realm's space. In Yang Tian's inner vision, as the original realm's space expanded, the galaxy became smaller and smaller. This was not because the galaxy had become smaller, but because Yang Tian's vision was far away from the galaxy. Rumble, after an unknown amount of time, when the original realm had expanded to a certain extent, it began to shake again. The galaxy that existed in the center of the original realm suddenly stopped. As the original realm continued to shake, the planets that formed the galaxy suddenly broke away from their original orbit. They were pulled apart by the original realm's huge force and quickly scattered in the original realm, which had expanded by dozens of times. Boom! Just when Yang Tian thought that the planets in the original realm would rearrange themselves again, there was a loud bang. All the planets shattered and turned into powder. This was a critical moment for Yang Tian. If the energy supply was cut off, his original realm would be destroyed. Fortunately, Tianhun, the source of the energy, was still hesitating. As the energy continued to pour in, the powder formed by the exploding planets in the original realm began to slowly condense. New stars and planets were formed and slowly gathered, forming 3 galaxies that were even more powerful than the original. The 3 galaxies were separated by a great distance, and there was a strong repulsive force between them. They moved slowly under the attraction of a powerful force in the original realm. Yang Tian's energy world had finally advanced again. The process was daunting but not dangerous. During this process, the cells in Yang Tian's body also underwent changes. Compared to before, the quality of the cells was much higher, and the amount of energy they could contain had increased by at least 10 times. When Yang Tian opened his eyes, he found that the sky was already bright. At this moment, the little blue dragon in the sky was still absorbing this dense energy. The amount of energy required for the little blue dragon to ascend from Great Star Lord to Great Star God was almost unimaginable. If a cultivator wanted to increase their cultivation level, the prerequisite was to have enough energy. If he couldn't obtain enough energy to raise his realm in a short period of time, he could only exchange it with time. That was also the reason why so many cultivators spent thousands of years to advance from the star state to the superstar state, and even longer to become Star Lord. Therefore, cultivators who could increase their cultivation level quickly were all lucky cultivators. They had encountered opportunities in the process of cultivation. This time, Yang Tian had planned to stay in the northern spill star zone for a few days before leaving. Then, he had met Yuyang Nancy and his unknown son. It was also because of this that Yang Tian had discovered the bloodline seal in Yuyang Nancy's body. In the end, he had obtained an opportunity to increase his cultivation level. This was also the wonder of cultivation. On the path of cultivation, no one could predict what would happen next. Many people cultivated not only because they desired to become stronger, but also because they wanted to enjoy this wonderful process. The energy fluctuations here spread far and wide, so it naturally attracted many cultivators. These people felt the power of the little blue dragon and didn't dare approach. They only dared to watch from afar, wondering what Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were doing. After glancing at the curious cultivators, Yang Tian turned his attention to the little blue dragon. The speed at which the little blue dragon absorbed energy could only be described as terrifying. Its body was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy the semicircular red ball released, it would all be absorbed into its stomach and fused into its body. Yang Tian could feel the little blue dragon's joy. That was because if he could hold on for another 2 or 3 days, the little blue dragon would be able to become a star god. I hope nothing unexpected happens, Yang Tian prayed in his heart. Seeing that the red liquid was becoming less and less, and that it was about to dry up, Tianhun could no longer hold it in and struck out with his palm. Bang! With a loud sound, Tianhun's palm strike landed on the energy teleportation array and clashed with the defensive array's energy, creating a loud sound. The energy of the collision overflowed, causing the entire pyramid to tremble. When Tianhun saw that his palm strike had been neutralized, a surprised expression appeared on his old face. Even though he did not use his full strength in that attack, it was still able to destroy a gigantic mountain range. However, the pyramid only trembled for a moment and was fine. A cold smile appeared on Tianhun's face. He, who was hovering in the air, struck out another palm strike at the array beneath him. He had used 30% of his strength in the previous palm strike. This time, he used 50% of his strength. There was another loud bang. Just like the previous palm strike, Tianhun's palm strike did not break through the array's energy defense. However, this palm strike had caused a change to the array. Or rather, this palm strike had activated the array's runic mechanism. When the pyramid violently trembled, the pendant that Tian Hun was wearing around his neck shattered with a pop. At the same time, the square entrance above his head closed. The pyramid had instantly become a completely sealed space. As for the small amount of red liquid that was left, it no longer flowed into the array. The inner walls of the pyramid were covered with runes. When the runic mechanism was activated, all the runes lit up. The red liquid that had stopped flowing into the array began to be absorbed by the enormous pyramid. Tian Hun was an old monster who had lived for countless years. His strength was not inferior to that of the superstar Divine Temple's great priest Empty God. It was just that he had always been mysterious and did not let outsiders know about him. Such a person was naturally experienced and knowledgeable. He knew that he had activated the runic mechanism and that the pyramid had locked him inside. In the face of such a situation, Tian Hun was very calm. A cold smile still remained on his old face. Just as Tian Hun was about to strike the array below with his full strength, the array underwent a miraculous change. With a series of GGG sounds, the runes on the array began to move. Tian Hun put down the hand he had just raised. He wanted to see what other interesting things would happen next. Many things could not be forced. For example, if the energy here could not be used by him, then so be it. However, he was very curious about the person who had almost exhausted the seal's energy. He wanted to see if he had the chance. On the flame star, little azure dragon was happily absorbing the energy, but it did not expect that the energy would suddenly be cut off. PFFF, without the supply of energy, the red semicircular sphere exploded, spraying football-sized, ruby-like oval-shaped spheres in all directions. The explosion of the red semicircular spheres was not very powerful. The red spheres scattered over an area of 1,000 meters. Needless to say, Yang Tian knew that these things were extremely precious. Of course, he would not throw them away. Yang Tian spent a few minutes putting hundreds of these oval-shaped spheres into his bracelet of holding. The little blue dragon stayed in the sky for a long time with a regretful heart before landing on the ground. He lowered his head and looked at the array disk Yang Tian had drawn. If he could hold on for a while longer, he would be able to advance to the great star god level. After putting away the hundreds of oval-shaped spheres, Yang Tian appeared in front of the little blue dragon in a flash. He said to the little blue dragon, "Xiaolong, we still have many high-level beast cores. They should be able to make up for the missing energy and advance you to the great star god level." Roar! The little blue dragon nodded and let out a roar. Yang Tian smiled. Just as Yang Tian was about to destroy the array disk in front of him, it suddenly lit up again, emitting a faint blue light. Chapter 578. What was going on? Yang Tian's eyes widened. The strange program then said, "It's activated the teleportation array. This array has the ability to teleport. It's equivalent to a child array of a teleportation array." Before strange program could finish speaking, Yang Tian sent a palm strike towards the talisman transfer array. Boom! After reaching the Grand Astral Lord level, Yang Tian's strength had increased by more than 100 times. Not only did his attack shatter the boulder engraved with the array, but it also created a crater more than 10 meters deep and dozens of meters in diameter. The moment the talisman array was destroyed, Yang Tian saw a black figure appear within the talisman. In the pyramid, the blue light of the teleportation platform suddenly went out. Tian Hun was no longer there. Boom! With a loud noise, the huge pyramid exploded. Even the planet it was on was blown to pieces. Just like that, the place where the Jade Sun race was sealed was destroyed. One had to admit that Yang Tian's attack was too timely. Before the teleportation was completed, Yang Tian had destroyed the talisman array. In the process of teleporting through the teleportation array, If the teleportation array disk was destroyed before the teleportation was completed, the best outcome would be to get lost in space. In the worst-case scenario, the body would be torn to shreds by the spatial energy. Tian Hun was a grand astral god. The spatial energy during the teleportation couldn't hurt him. As for getting lost, that was even less likely. Tian Hun suddenly appeared in a universe far, far away from the flame star. At this moment, his face was filled with anger. He had never been framed like this before. Tian Hun stopped in the air, looked around, and then disappeared in a flash. While Yang Tian was destroying the array, Yang Tian saw Tian Hun. Tian Hun also vaguely saw the situation on the flame planet, as well as the position of a star and a satellite in the sky. As long as these conditions were combined and the AI program looked for it on the star map, it wouldn't take long for Tian Hun to find the flame planet. After the talisman array was destroyed, Yang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't know who had appeared in the array. Fortunately, the talisman array was destroyed before the teleportation was completed. Otherwise, it might have been another big problem. The little blue dragon turned back into Mini Dragon and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. At this moment, the little blue dragon's eyes were still filled with regret. To the little blue dragon, he was just a little bit away from the great star god realm. Yang Tian disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, Yang Tian appeared on the highest mountain peak on the flame star. He looked up at the sky. After becoming a Star Lord, Yang Tian had a different feeling about the universe. As for what was different, he could not describe it in detail with words. He only felt that the universe was not as big as he had imagined. Looking at the sky, Yang Tian came to a realization. All of a sudden, Yang Tian moved. He turned into a streak of light and broke through the atmosphere of the flame star in the blink of an eye, appearing in space. While flying at such a high speed, Yang Tian felt that the universe was like an ocean, and he was like a fish in it. He felt unprecedented freedom. Yang Tian didn't feel any resistance while flying at such a high speed. He seemed to be able to appear anywhere in the universe with a single thought. Cultivators who had become Star Lords had enough energy to break through space and perform space jumps like spaceship. For Yang Tian, it was a novel thing. After staying in the space outside the flame star for a while, Yang Tian's figure flickered and disappeared. When Yang Tian reappeared, he was already 100 kilometers away from his previous position. After staying there for a while, Yang Tian moved again. Just like that, Yang Tian's figure kept flashing in and out of the universe. Every time he disappeared and reappeared, he would be at least several hundred kilometers away. Yang Tian didn't use his full strength. Otherwise, he could have appeared tens of thousands of kilometers away. After playing with Yang Tian for a while, the little blue dragon said goodbye to Yang Tian and went to check on the Jade Sun sky. Yang Tian found that such space jumps were very energy-consuming. Other cultivators who had just become Star Lords didn't dare to play like Yang Tian did. That was because Yang Tian had the Origin Realm inside his body. The enormous Origin Realm could provide enough power for Yang Tian. Yang Tian's current strength and speed were even higher and faster than the average peak Star Lord. Although he couldn't compete with the Star Gods, Yang Tian was already one of the top Star Lords. After having enough fun, Yang Tian soon returned to the Black Dragon spaceship. After taking a shower and changing into a clean set of clothes, Yang Tian took out an oval-shaped red ball from his storage bracelet. It was made of the mysterious young man's body cells. Yang Tian didn't dare touch it with his skin. So, Yang Tian took out a detector from his storage bracelet. The high-tech detector scanned the object, and the result was exactly as Yang Tian had expected. It was actually a huge cell body. The detector could only analyze the basic structure of such cells. It couldn't determine the energy they contained. After thinking for a moment, Yang Tian summoned some of his mental power, trying to enter the huge cell body. Unlike last time, Yangming's mental power was not absorbed this time. Instead, it was bounced back. The detector's detection beam could pass through it, but Yang Tian's mental power couldn't. It was really strange. Yang Tian didn't need to test it. He knew that the energy contained in such a cell body was much greater than the energy contained in a cell body that hadn't grown up before. However, it was a pity that he couldn't use it. What Yang Tian couldn't understand was why such a cell body would grow bigger after absorbing the sealed energy. The Jade Sun clan, no, the God Martial clan's encampment, welcomed another night. Yang Tian hadn't come for several days, and Yang Nancy wasn't used to it. Even without Yang Tian's urging, Yang Nancy still used the night to practice the star-slashing blade technique. It had almost become a habit for her. Chi! Boom! Yang Nancy suddenly slashed out with her blade, and a sharp blade aura was emitted from the blade. The blade aura turned a huge boulder that weighed several tons into powder, making a loud noise. Not bad. You've improved again. Yang Tian's voice was heard all of a sudden. Yang Nancy was stunned. She was pleasantly surprised. Nancy, do you know why the Jade Sun clan hasn't been able to produce a true powerhouse? Yang Tian asked with a smile as he walked over to Yang Nancy. There's a problem with our system, and those elders. Yang Nancy didn't want to continue. Yang Tian said, besides this reason, there's also a sealed energy in the bodies of the Jade Sun clan. Yang Tian had nothing to hide, so he told her what he knew. Yang Nancy didn't look surprised when she heard this. Instead, she smiled bitterly at Yang Tian. You actually found out. Yang Nancy actually knew about this. Yang Tian thought about it and understood. After tens of thousands of years, the Jade Sun clan hadn't been able to produce a top-notch powerhouse in the universe. They would definitely be suspected. Yang Nancy raised her head to look at the blood moon in the sky and said, there's a legend in the clan that our ancestors were extremely powerful. Our bloodline allowed us to grow at an extremely fast speed. During a battle, our ancestors killed someone they shouldn't have killed, so they suffered revenge. Yang Tian wasn't interested in the past of the Jade Sun clan. When Yang Nancy finished speaking, he smiled and asked, do you want to remove the seal in your body? Chapter 579. Remove the seal in the body. Yang Nancy's eyes widened when she heard that. She had heard from the elders of the clan that there was a seal in the bodies of the Jade Sun clan. However, no one knew what kind of seal it was. A long time ago, the Jade Sun clan had paid a huge price to invite some top powerhouses to remove the seal in the bodies of the Jade Sun clan members. However, all of them had failed. Most of the powerhouses who were invited could not find the sealed energy in the bodies of the Jade Sun clan members. Even if they found it, they could not do anything about it. This was because one needed to have the same conditions as Yang Tian. Firstly, one needed to have a strong mental power. Secondly, one needed to have the help of a strange program. Alternatively, one needed to have a high level of attainment in runes. Yang Tian, you can remove the seal in the bodies of the Jade Sun clan members? Yang Nancy was stunned. She looked at the confident expression in Yang Tian's eyes and asked in surprise. Yang Tian smiled. I'm removing the seal in your body, not the Jade Sun clans. As for the rest of the Jade Sun clan members, you can think of a way yourselves. What about Lil Tian? Yang Nancy hurriedly asked. Yang Tian said, if he can't even do this in the future, he won't be able to become a top powerhouse. Yang Nancy was a little disappointed when Yang Tian finished speaking. She did not expect Yang Tian to have such strict requirements for his son. Alright, let's begin. Just like before, Yang Tian said. Yang Nancy nodded and sat down with her legs crossed. Using his mental power, Yang Tian quickly found the red energy in Yang Nancy's body. Just like before, Yang Tian used his mental power to form a large net and covered it as soon as he discovered the seal energy. Just like before, the energy quickly gathered into a ball. However, there was no more energy from the teleportation formation. Under Yang Tian's strong mental power, it could not resist and was enveloped by Yang Tian's mental power. Yang Tian used his mental power to wrap up the energy and left Yang Nanxi's body. To be on the safe side, Yang Tian removed the red seal energy and checked Yang Nanxi's cells again. Only then was he relieved. "Alright, do you feel anything?" Yang Tian asked after removing the seal. Yang Nanxi shook his head. Now, Yang Tian could focus on raising Yang Nanxi's cultivation base. He took out a blue stellar warrior class beast core from his storage bracelet and handed it to Nanxi. If all went well, Yang Nanxi would soon become a star-grade cultivator. Under Yang Tian's gaze, Yang Nanxi calmed himself down and placed the beast core into his mouth. After swallowing the beast core, the energy emitted from the beast core was quickly absorbed by Yang Nanxi's cells. This process was so fast that Yang Nanxi did not even have time to react. She cultivated the meridian power, so there was an energy realm in her body. During cultivation, Yang Nanxi used the energy realm to absorb energy. During battle, she also used the energy realm's power. However, the cells in her body had absorbed the beast core's energy in an instant. They even absorbed the energy in her energy realm, forcing her to use her mind to close the energy realm. Yang Nanxi's calmness surprised Yang Tian. This undoubtedly meant that the cells of the Yang race were different from that of ordinary people. Yang Tian took out another silvery white stellar warrior class beast core. After swallowing the beast core, Yang Nanxi's reaction was the same as before. It took her a few minutes to absorb the beast core's energy. Yang Nanxi cultivated the meridian power. Due to the existence of the seal, her body's cells had absorbed very little energy. The reason for this was, of course, due to the interference of the seal. Now that the seal was gone, her body's cells acted as if they had been starving for hundreds of years. As soon as there was energy, it was absorbed by her body cells before the energy realm could even start absorbing the beast core's energy. Yang Nanxi found it unbelievable that this had happened twice in a row. She immediately described what had happened to her body to Yang Tian in detail. Yang Tian couldn't help but smile when he heard it clearly. This was obviously a good sign. Don't try to use the energy realm to absorb the beast core's energy. I want to see what kind of changes your body's cells will undergo after absorbing enough energy, Yang Tian said as he took out the yellow stellar king-class beast core from his storage bracelet. After swallowing the beast core, Yang Nanxi's body finally reacted. Her skin started to turn red slowly. It was the kind of red that ordinary people would get when they were drunk. This process lasted for a few minutes before the redness on her skin slowly faded. At that moment, Yang Tian noticed that Jade Sun Nanxi's skin had become much whiter and more delicate than before. It had to be said that the Yang race's environment was very harsh, so their skin was a little dark. In Yang Tian's eyes, Yang Nanxi had undoubtedly become more beautiful. Although there had been such changes after absorbing the stellar king-class beast core, Yang Tian could tell from the energy fluctuations emanating from Yang Nanxi's body that she still hadn't leveled up. Yang Tian started to feel incredulous. It was as though he had discovered a treasure mountain. Yang Tian became excited. Then, he took out a black stellar king-class beast core from his storage bracelet. After swallowing the stellar king-class beast core, Yang Nanxi's body finally underwent a great change. First, it was the same as before. Her skin turned red, and then the bones in her body made a cracking sound. Yang Tian watched in surprise as Yang Nanxi's body started to grow. In 10 minutes, she was taller than Yang Tian. She finally stopped growing when she was about 2.5 meters tall. At that moment, Yang Nanxi's body emitted energy fluctuations that only stellar state cultivators could have. She was at the stellar warrior level. Yang Nanxi was wearing a white, elastic nightgown. When her body grew bigger, the loose clothing became tight on her body, causing Yang Nanxi's perfect figure to appear in front of Yang Tian's eyes. Young Nancy was very surprised when she saw how big she had become. Then, she started to panic. She had already become a giant. If she continued to look like this, would Yang Tian still want her? Yang Tian didn't mind. He took out another stellar king-class beast core from his storage bracelet and handed it to Young Nancy. No, I don't want to grow any bigger. This isn't good. Young Nancy hurriedly waved her hands and refused. When Young Nancy said this, she realized that her voice had changed. It had become clearer and louder. However, it was still a woman's voice. Actually, the changes in Young Nancy's body didn't mean much to Yang Tian. If he wanted to, he could make himself bigger. This was an ability that Yang Tian had comprehended after transforming into a dragon. However, such changes weren't very useful to human cultivators. After growing bigger, one's strength wouldn't increase. Instead, it would make it easier for opponents to hit their bodies. A height of about 2 meters was very suitable. The reason why the little azure dragon liked to fight after it grew bigger was that it could unleash more power and attack power after it grew bigger. At the same time, a bigger little blue dragon could also exert a strong psychological pressure on its enemies. There was an obvious difference between humans and dragons in this regard. "Swallow it," Yang Tian said in an unquestionable tone as he looked at Young Nancy. Young Nancy didn't dare disobey Yang Tian's order. She bent down and extended her large hand towards Yang Tian. Yang Tian placed the red beast core in her palm. Yang Tian realized that, even though her body had grown bigger, Young Nancy's skin was still very delicate. It hadn't developed in the direction of roughness. Chapter 580. Young Nancy looked at Yang Tian with resentment. She took off her clothes and sat on the ground naked. There was no one else around, so Young Nancy wasn't worried about others seeing her naked body. After swallowing the Star Realm Lord Beast Core, Young Nancy closed her eyes. This time, her body didn't change much after absorbing the energy of the Beast Core. After absorbing the energy of the Beast Core, Young Nancy opened her eyes and told Yang Tian, "I feel like I'm still lacking a bit of energy." Yang Tian took out another Star Realm Lord Beast Core. The number of Beast Cores Yang Tian possessed was something that even Superstar God Temple's Great Priest Empty God could not compare with. Even if Yang Tian ate Beast Cores like snacks and ate dozens of them a day, it would take him a few years to finish them all. Other people would think it was amazing to have 1 or 2 Star Realm Beast Cores, yet Yang Tian could take them out so easily. Up until now, Young Nancy still didn't know how many Beast Cores Yang Tian had. She guessed that Yang Tian might have obtained a treasure left behind by an ancient cultivator. After swallowing another Stellar Domain Lord-level Beast Core, Young Nancy's skin turned red again, and the bones in his body began to creak again. Just as Yang Tian had expected, Young Nancy's body started to grow again. Her body had grown from about 2.5 meters tall to nearly 4 meters tall. At this time, Young Nancy was a true giant compared to ordinary people. This time, the duration of the growth was much longer than the previous one. It took about 20 minutes. Young Nancy, who was sitting on the ground, was much taller than Yang Tian. After this growth, Young Nancy's cultivation level rose from the Star Realm Warrior to the Star Realm Warlord. Based on her huge figure, her combat power was probably stronger than ordinary Star Realm Warlord cultivators. "How do you feel? Do you feel like you've become much stronger?" Yang Tian asked with a smile after Young Nancy's body stopped growing. Woo! Unexpectedly, when Yang Tian asked this question, Young Nancy covered her face and started crying. Now that his body had grown so big, how was he going to face people in the future? Wouldn't that make him a monster in the eyes of others? Not only because of this, Young Nancy felt that Yang Tian didn't care about her figure, which meant that Yang Tian didn't care about her. When Yang Tian saw Young Nancy crying, he smiled and comforted her. "Why are you crying? Wait until your realm reaches a certain level, then you can change it back." Yang Tian was a Star Lord cultivator, and his understanding of the body's cells was beyond Yuyang Nanxi's imagination. He explained to Yuyang Nanxi in detail how the cells were catalyzed by energy and could change according to his thought. Really? After Yang Tian finished speaking, Yuyang Nanxi looked at Yang Tian with a puzzled expression. Yang Tian nodded with certainty. Yuyang Nanxi could only choose to believe in Yang Tian. She answered Yang Tian's question, "Yes, I feel like I'm filled with power. It's like I can punch through this planet with a single punch." After Yuyang Nanxi finished speaking, he clenched his fist and waved it around. When Yuyang Nanxi waved her fist, there was an ear-piercing sound of the wind. Yang Tian smiled and said, "You can give it a try." Yuyang Nanxi nodded and stood up. Yuyang Nanxi, whose body had grown even bigger, stood up with a shy expression on her face. Because after her body grew bigger, her private parts were even more obvious. As for Yang Tian, after Yuyang Nanxi stood up, he slowly backed away to give Yuyang Nanxi some space. Yang Tian really wanted to know how powerful Yuyang Nanxi was now. After hesitating for a while, and seeing that Yang Tian was dozens of meters away from her, she finally made her move. Bang! Under Yang Tian's expectant gaze, Yuyang Nanxi kicked off the ground and shot dozens of meters into the air. She turned her body around in the air, and used the planet's gravity to crash down. Then, she punched the ground. Boom! There was a loud noise. It was as if a high-explosive bomb had exploded underground. With Yuyang Nanxi's body as the center, a large cloud of sand and stones rose up. The ground trembled violently for a moment. After the sand and stones had dispersed with the air, what appeared before Yang Tian's eyes was a large crater. At this moment, he was standing at the edge of the crater. The crater was about 50 meters in diameter and 20 meters deep. Yang Tian did some calculations. From the hardness of the planet's rocks, Yuyang Nanxi's power had indeed surpassed that of a typical star-level warlord. At this moment, Yuyang Nanxi was standing in the crater. Her body was covered with sand and stones. She shook her body and shook off the sand and stones on her body. Seeing Yang Tian looking at her with a smile, Yuyang Nanxi wanted to jump out of the crater. But Yang Tian smiled and said, "You should stay in the crater right now so that others won't see you. The commotion just now would definitely attract a lot of people nearby." Yang Tian didn't want his woman to be seen by others. Yuyang Nanxi nodded. Yang Tian then said, "Feel your body. Can you still absorb more energy?" Yuyang Nanxi nodded. "I can feel that my body is even more thirsty for energy now." Yang Tian smiled and took out 2 golden superstar warlord-level beast cores from his storage bracelet. Yang Tian looked at the 2 beast cores in his hand and then tossed them to Yuyang Nanxi. Yuyang Nanxi reached out her hand and caught the 2 beast cores in her hand. Controlling the strong desire to devour, Nanxi only swallowed 1 beast core. Kakik. After consuming the beast core, Yuyang Nanxi's body grew again. This time, her height increased by more than 4 times. A 20-meter deep crater appeared on her head before she stopped growing. From Yuyang Nanxi's perspective, Yang Tian had become very small. "Yang Tian, I can feel that there are more memories in my mind." Yuyang Nanxi opened her eyes wide and looked at Yang Tian, who was standing at the edge of the crater. She said in a surprised tone, "Obviously, this was the inherited memories of the Yuyang clan. When one's realm reached a certain level, the brain would be developed and the inherited memories would be awakened. Not only did beasts have inherited memories, but humans also had inherited memories. It was just that beasts awakened their memories earlier than humans. Yang Tian had already cultivated to the level of a great star lord. However, the inherited memories of humans on Earth hadn't been awakened yet. He only awakened more inherited memories of the Dragon Clan. Feel it carefully. Maybe you'll know how to change back," Yang Tian said with a smile after thinking for a while. Yuyang Nanxi nodded. She turned her eyes and looked into the distance. Someone had already arrived and was running in this direction. Young Nancy only took a glance and lowered her head. She was afraid that her current appearance would be seen by others. There were two middle-aged men. Neither of them were from the Yang clan. Yang Tian looked at the two of them and said indifferently, "Leave this place. This isn't a place you should be." Yang Tian said this with his mental power. When the two of them heard it, they felt like thunder. However, the two of them didn't listen to Yang Tian's warning. They only stopped for a moment before continuing to run in this direction. From their point of view, something must have happened up ahead. They might be able to get some benefits. Yang Tian was very unhappy. He raised his left hand and sent out two sharp finger force towards the two figures that were constantly flashing around. Pring pring, two consecutive sounds of explosions rang out. The two stellar warriors, who didn't listen to the warning, had their bodies crushed by Yang Tian's finger forces. People killed by Yang Tian basically had no chance of surviving. A major Star Lord cultivator could kill a Star State cultivator with a simple flick of his finger. Chapter 581. Upon seeing this, many cultivators immediately turned around and left, afraid that they would become Yang Tian's target. Two Stargrade powerhouses had been killed by Yang Tian with a lift of his finger. It was obvious that Yang Tian's cultivation base was at least at the superstar grade. They did not dare provoke such a powerhouse. Yang Tian's current state of mind was very different from before. Soon, the surroundings quieted down again. Young Nancy had swallowed the second superstar warlord beast core. This time, Young Nancy's body did not grow any bigger. However, she had obtained a lot of the Young race's inherited memories. Young Nancy, who was sitting cross-legged in the pit, closed her eyes and did not move. She only opened her eyes when the sun rose in the sky. Her cultivation base had already risen to the Starlord grade. She would become a peak Stargrade powerhouse if she advanced another level. In terms of combat power, Young Nancy's combat power should be similar to that of an ordinary Stargrade domain lord. With this kind of strength, she would be able to do whatever she wanted in the North Spill Star Zone. "I feel full," Young Nancy told Yang Tian after opening her eyes. When Young Nancy said she was full, she did not mean that her stomach was full. Instead, she meant that the cells in her body had already contained enough energy. She needed to undergo more training before she could evolve again and advance her cultivation base. After Young Nancy finished speaking, she stretched her neck. Then, a gurgling sound came from her body. Yang Tian watched as Young Nancy's body shrunk rapidly and returned to its original size. Young Nancy, who had returned to her original size, looked no different from before the seal had been lifted, except for the fact that her skin had become whiter and smoother. Yang Tian took out the sleeping robe that Young Nancy had taken off and tossed it to her from his storage bracelet. After putting on the sleeping robe, Young Nancy jumped out of the pit that was more than 20 meters deep. "Are you going to leave now?" The two of them walked side by side towards the encampment. After a moment of silence, Young Nancy suddenly turned his head and looked at Yang Tian. Yang Tian didn't stop. He only turned to look at Young Nancy and nodded. "When?" Young Nancy asked again. Yang Tian said, "After some time. I still have some unfinished business." 3 days later, on All Heaven Star in the north spread starfield. Above the most beautiful palace on the planet, a huge dragon head suddenly emerged from the thick clouds. The huge dragon opened its mouth and spat out a golden flame. The palace below was instantly turned into scorched earth. The person who lived in this palace was the most powerful cultivator in the Northern Spill Starfield, known as the Northern Spill King. Beiyin King was a cultivator at the Stellar Domain Lord level. In fact, he had already reached the Super Star Warrior level. This dragon was the Little Blue Dragon. The palace was burned down by the Little Blue Dragon, but Beiyin King didn't die. When the dragon flames arrived, he quickly escaped from the palace. Beiyin King didn't even know what was going on with this sudden attack. Seeing the palace that he had spent so much time and effort to build being destroyed, Beiyin King looked at the little blue dragon in the sky with anger. However, the little blue dragon's strength made him want to escape. However, just as he was about to escape, a black shadow appeared before him. Ping! A loud sound echoed. Beiyin King didn't even have time to see the person's face before he was sent flying. Then, a powerful and strange force invaded his body, instantly destroying more than half of his cells. At the last moment of his life, Beiyin King finally saw Yang Tian's face. Then, his eyes went black and he didn't know anything. After killing Beiyin King, Yang Tian broke through the atmosphere of the All-Heaven Star and returned to the Black Dragon spaceship. After the little blue dragon returned, Yang Tian had the Black Dragon spaceship fly to the next planet in the northern Spill starfield. In less than 5 days, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon killed most of the famous people in the northern Spill starfield. The situation that the Jade Sun race had hoped for was easily realized by Yang Tian. However, many people couldn't see it. 10 days later, on the Black Dragon spaceship, Yang Nancy, who was wearing a tight black dress and looked taller and more beautiful than before, was a bit nervous. This was because she was about to face a battle. Her opponent was a Star Lord cultivator in the northern Spill starfield called Kai Hong. During this time, Yang Nancy had already digested the inherited memories of the Jade Sun race and had a powerful battle power. However, she hadn't experienced actual combat yet and lacked battle experience. Yang Tian didn't kill or expel all the cultivators above the star level in the northern Spill starfield because he wanted to let Yang Nancy experience actual combat. The little blue dragon, who was lying on Yang Tian's shoulder, observed the expressions of Yang Tian and Yang Nancy from time to time and found it very interesting. In the little blue dragon's view, Yang Tian had done more for Yang Nancy than Yang Tian. If Yang Tian could use this method to nurture Yang Tian would at least become a superstar-level cultivator in less than 10 years. However, Yang Tian didn't intend to do that. Yang Tian wanted Yang Tian to fight for herself. When it came to the treatment of children, fathers and mothers had different attitude. Mothers could spoil their children, but fathers generally wouldn't. They wanted their children to be trained and have their own survival skills to become more mature. That way, when they were old and gone, their children would be able to survive better in this world. Seeing Yang Nancy's anxious look, Yang Tian stood up and said to Yang Nancy, "Follow me outside." Yang Nancy nodded. After the hatch of Black Dragon ship opened, Yang Tian hugged Yang Nancy's waist and disappeared from the spot. When they appeared again, they were thousands of kilometers away from the Black Dragon ship. After releasing Yang Nancy, Yang Tian took out a large red cube from his storage bracelet. Yang Tian pointed at the 5-meter-long, 3-meter-wide, 1-meter-tall item and said, "This is a set of armor that I specially designed for you. You can wear it when your body grows bigger." Also, as Yang Tian spoke, he took out a blue dress from his storage bracelet. He said to Yang Nancy, "This is a special piece of clothing. You can wear it usually. When you need to fight and your body grows bigger, you can wear it. It can grow bigger with your body. You can try it on now." In order to prepare these two items, Yang Tian used about 10 days. Yang Tian prepared these clothes and armor because Yang Nancy was still unable to control her body perfectly. Every time she needed to fight, her body would grow bigger. After receiving the blue dress from Yang Tian, Yang Nancy immediately took off her clothes and put on the special blue dress. After putting on the blue dress, Yang Nancy looked even more noble and beautiful. She walked in a circle in front of Yang Tian. With a thought, the energy in her body began to circulate. Yang Nancy's body began to grow rapidly. The blue dress on her body also began to stretch. The dress looked simple, but every thread that made up it was specially made. There were also small intelligent machines on it. The actual cost of making it was even more expensive than the huge red armor. After turning into a 20-meter-tall giant, Young Nancy looked at the blue dress on her body and was very satisfied. This way, when she transformed, she wouldn't tear her clothes and become a naked woman. Although the blue dress didn't reach her knees. Try the armor. Yang Tian nodded and said with a smile. Young Nancy stood on top of the folded red armor. After a series of binding procedures, the red armor was put on his body. Young Nancy looked like a goddess in the red armor. If she was given a huge scepter, she would look even more like one. Chapter 582. After trying on the clothes and armor, the two returned to the Black Dragon ship. The Black Dragon ship stopped for a moment before taking off again, arriving at a planet called the Tricolor Star in the northern spread star field. This was the most beautiful and had the best environment in the northern spread star field. The reason it was called the Tricolor Star was because it had 3 different colors when seen from outside the atmosphere. The green of the plants, the red of the desert, and the blue of the ocean. The tricolor star was more than twice the size of Earth, and its gravity was twice that of Earth. As soon as the ship arrived outside the tricolor star's atmosphere, it received a communication request. Yang Tian released a powerful mental power to envelop the ship, ignoring the communication request, and directly entered the planet's atmosphere. When the Black Dragon ship landed, it was naturally bombarded by the particle cannon. With the protection of Yang Tian's mental power, the ship wasn't damaged at all and landed in a forest. Not far from this forest was a manor. Kai Hong, who was a Star Lord, lived in that manor. Kai Hong immediately knew that a ship had intruded and sent over 100 subordinates to surround Yang Tian's Black Dragon ship. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon concealed their presence. Otherwise, as soon as Yang Tian and the little blue dragon arrived, Kai Hong would have escaped through the teleportation formation disc. Sensing a large number of cultivators surrounding them, Yang Tian smiled and said to Young Nancy in the cockpit, "It's up to you now. Kill Kai Hong." After that, Yang Tian turned and said to the little blue dragon, "Xiao Long, don't let Kai Hong escape." The little blue dragon nodded and turned into a green shadow, leaving the Black Dragon ship. This battle was arranged by Yang Tian for Young Nancy to fight. The little blue dragon just had to make sure that Kai Hong couldn't escape. After getting off the Black Dragon ship, Young Nancy enlarged his body and put on the red armor that Yang Tian prepared for him. The cultivators who had gathered around were shocked to see such a huge woman. After growing to a height of more than 20 meters, Young Nancy's head had already popped out of the forest by quite a bit. A large black saber appeared in her hand. This saber was also prepared by Yang Tian for Young Nancy. At this time, Yang Tian also came out of the spaceship. He sat on top of the Black Dragon spaceship and looked at everything curiously. Although they were surprised, they were also somewhat fearful. More than 100 planet-grade cultivators, led by a stellar warrior, rushed towards Young Nancy. Boom 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 boom, Young Nancy raised his broadsword and walked towards Kai Hong's manor. The ground trembled under his feet. All the trees that were blocking Young Nancy's path were broken by Young Nancy's huge body. Kill! Suddenly, a loud shout was heard. A cultivator leaped high into the air with his blade, stabbing towards Young Nancy's abdomen. The armor on Young Nancy's body looked a little weak at the abdomen. Tch! Young Nancy raised her blade, and the blade pierced through the cultivator's body. This slash directly cut the cultivator into 2. Young Nancy's speed was not slow because of her huge body. In fact, she was even faster than other cultivators at the same level. After one cultivator was killed, another planet-grade cultivator rushed over. This person attacked Young Nancy from behind. He leaped high into the air and stabbed towards Young Nancy's head. Young Nancy did not wear a helmet. Hearing the wind behind her neck, Young Nancy did not move. Instead, her neck turned 180 degrees and spat out a mouthful of air. A red flame was spat out from Yuyang Nansi's mouth. This planet-grade cultivator was instantly enveloped by the red flame. With a sizzling sound, he was burned to a crisp and fell to the ground. This was a combat skill that Yuyang Nansi had obtained after receiving the inherited memories of the Yuyang race. But compared to the little blue dragon's flames, the temperature of this red flame was much lower. Bang, bang, bang! At this time, more cultivators rushed over. They surrounded Yuyang Nansi and slashed at her. There was a dense sound of energy clashing. Seeing this, Yang Tian laughed again. The runes on Yuyang Nansi's armor were designed by a strange program. They were drawn by the large rune pen that controlled Yang Tian's body. This armor was already one of the best armors in the universe. It was not something that an average cultivator could destroy. The energy source for this armor was a super star-level warrior beast core. It could allow this armor to be protected for a long period of time. Faced with the attacks of more than 100 people, Yuyang Nansi waved her blade with both hands. Tch! The huge black saber formed a rapidly flashing saber shadow. In an instant, more than 10 people were cut into 2 halves. Seeing how ferocious this huge woman was and how they could not break through her armor, some people were so scared that they did not dare to fight anymore. They turned and ran. With someone taking the lead, more people joined the group of people who were running away. The leading star-level cultivator killed several of his subordinates in a row. However, he could not stop his subordinates from fleeing. In the end, he had no choice but to escape into the forest. This subordinate of Kai Hong's did not dare to return to the manor. If he did, he would be killed by Kai Hong to vent his anger. Not far away, in Kai Hong's manor, Kai Hong was standing on the tallest building in the manor with 14 star-level subordinates. He looked at Yuyang Nansi expressionlessly. Kai Hong had the face of a middle-aged man. He had short silver hair and a tall figure. He was wearing an exquisite black armor. Yuyang Nansi was so powerful, but Kai Hong did not panic. In the North Spill Star Field, Kai Hong was considered an old man. He had experienced more than 1,000 battles and was already used to such scenes. After the hundreds of manor guards fled, Kai Hong said coldly, "Mi Chen, Gu Xing, Lan Si, go and clean up those cowards." Yes. As soon as Kai Hong finished speaking, the 2 cultivators behind him spoke up. The 2 of them bowed before Kai Hong and left in a flash. At this moment, Yuyang Nansi was already approaching the manor with quick steps. As she moved quickly, Yuyang Nansi caused a huge commotion. Even the people in the rooms of the manor could hear the rumbling sounds coming from outside. Even the floor was shaking. The ordinary people in the manor were so frightened that they opened the back door of the manor and fled into the forest. Kai Hong did not pay attention to these ordinary people. Set up the array. I want to let this monster have a taste of the power of a talisman array. Activate the teleportation array disc. If the talisman array is unable to trap her, we will leave immediately. After giving this order, the 12 subordinates behind Kai Hong immediately dispersed and went to make preparations. The cultivators who lived in the North Spill Star Field did not feel safe. They all had their own life-saving methods, such as setting up talisman arrays around their residences and setting up teleportation array discs that could be activated at any time at home. The little blue dragon had already entered the manor. When one of Kai Hong's subordinates went to activate the teleportation array disc, the little blue dragon followed behind him and entered a secret room in the basement. As soon as they entered the secret room, Kai Hong's subordinate immediately placed a piece of stellar crystal into the energy chamber of the array disc. With the energy, the teleportation array disc immediately lit up with a blue light. Seeing that the array disc had been activated, the man then left the secret room. After he left, the little blue dragon came out and used its sharp dragon claws to destroy the talisman on the array disc. As a result, the teleportation array disc was extinguished and lost its ability to teleport. Boom. Suddenly, there was a loud noise from outside. It was Young Nancy who had jumped into the manor from outside. It sounded like something that weighed dozens of tons had fallen from a height of 100 meters and hit the ground. Chapter 583. At this time, Young Nancy had already seen Kai Hong. Kai Hong was standing on top of a building that looked like a clock tower. The tower was around 20 meters tall. Standing here, Kai Hong could see Young Nancy at the same level. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Kai Hong asked loudly as he looked at Young Nancy's beautiful face. "To kill you." Young Nancy did not answer who she was. Instead, she simply said those 3 words. Her voice was loud and clear, but it made people feel that there was a hint of flirtatiousness in her voice. Kai Hong only snorted coldly in response to Young Nancy's answer. At this time, Young Nancy had already fallen into a gigantic talisman array. Suddenly, a blue beam of light rose from the 8 positions of the manor. These beams of light were slanted up into the sky. The 8 beams of light that were several meters in diameter gathered together in the air a few hundred meters above the mansion. They projected a gigantic blue net of light down below. Even under the bright light of the stars, the blue net of light was very eye-catching. The power of the talisman array can bind her. While it can attack, but with the protection of the armor, she shouldn't be injured. As soon as the talisman array appeared, the bizarre program analyzed it for Yang Tian. With enough information on the talisman array, the bizarre program was even more powerful. Just from the energy ripples of the talisman array, it could determine how powerful the talisman array was and what kind of talisman array it was. This was similar to how a cultivator could determine the cultivation level of another person based on the energy ripples in their body. Yang Tian smiled. "As long as she doesn't die, it's fine if she's injured. If I leave, she'll have to face many more battles like this." After Young Nancy was covered by the blue net of light, she frowned and slashed at the net of light. Bang! There was a loud sound. Young Nancy's powerful slash was unable to break the net of light. Seeing that the talisman array was not broken, Kai Hong let out a sigh of relief. If the woman in front of him could break the talisman array with 1 slash, then he would consider leaving immediately. After all his assets were in his storage bracelet. Even if he left the Northern Reach starfield, he could still live a good life and continue to cultivate. After the talisman formation was activated, the 2 cultivators who had gone out to clean up the escapees returned. Together with the other 12 cultivators, they scattered around the periphery of the talisman formation, holding their weapons and on guard. This talisman array did not only have a defensive function, it also had an offensive function. Chi. All of a sudden, the net of light began to flash with messy lines that resembled blue electric currents. At the same time, blue flames began to appear in the array glyphs, and the surrounding temperature began to rise rapidly. Seeing the situation within the talisman formation, Kai Hong could not help but laugh. This was the talisman array's most powerful attack method. It could trap the enemy inside and raise the temperature to the point where it could even melt armor. Those who were trapped in the formation would die miserably. This talisman formation covered an area of 100 meters in diameter. Not only could it trap a person, but it could also trap a large group of people. Even Kai Hong himself believed that if he were to be trapped inside, only death would await him. But soon, something that surprised him happened. Young Nancy opened his mouth towards the blue flames in the middle of the array and inhaled. The blue flames were sucked into Young Nancy's mouth. Without the blue flames, the temperature within the array dropped. The talisman array had detected that the flames within the array had been extinguished, and more blue flames began to appear. And Young Nancy inhaled again. After a few times, more than half of the talisman array's energy had been consumed. This was another combat skill that Young Nancy possessed, and that was devour. Devouring energy and matter that were free. From afar, Yang Tian was shocked when he saw the situation. As a matter of fact, the dragons had this ability as well. It was just that the little blue dragon rarely used it, and Yang Tian had forgotten about it. The little blue dragon that followed Yang Tian had never devoured a human before. If it were any other dragon, they would devour human cultivators when they were fighting. Unless the cultivators were as powerful as Sun Wukong, they would all be turned into energy in an instant. Of course, when facing cultivators that were more powerful than them, the dragon would not do something so stupid. After a few times of devouring, Yang Nancy noticed that the talisman array's energy had weakened. And so, he swung his sword and slashed twice. Boom! Boom! There were 2 loud explosions. The talisman array was destroyed in an instant. The 8 corners of the manor exploded at the same time, and the blue beams of light that were projected into the air disappeared. Seeing that the talisman array had been destroyed, Kai Hong yelled out in shock, "Trap him!" Out of reflex, his 14 followers rushed toward Yang Nancy with their weapons in hand. At this time, Kai Hong had already gone downstairs and was running toward the secret room. He was very smart. He knew that he was no match for Yang Nancy, and it was best for him to escape. However, when he arrived at the secret room and saw the destroyed teleportation array, he could not help but widen his eyes in anger. Kai Hong was the test subject that Yang Tian had found for Yang Nancy. Yang Tian would not let him escape so easily. Actually, cultivators like Kai Hong were not good people. The number of normal humans that had died in their hands was in the 100. Yang Tian did not feel guilty at all for killing someone like this. Facing the dozen or so cultivators at the Eternal Star Realm, Yang Nancy quickly swung her sword and killed 5 of them in a row. The bodies of the 5 that were killed reformed again. Yang Nancy smiled coldly as she raised her leg and stomped on their bodies, turning them into meat patties. Seeing that their leader had run away, the remaining few people rolled their eyes and turned to flee into the forest outside the manor. Yang Nancy did not chase after them. Instead, she killed the 5 that were still unwilling and wanted to revive themselves twice more. She wanted them to die completely. Next, Yang Nancy moved and chased after them in a certain direction. She had already focused her attention on Kai Hong. Unless Kai Hong had the same ability as Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, which could prevent the aura from leaking out from within his body. Otherwise, he would not be able to escape from Yang Nancy's pursuit. Kai Hong flew quickly in the air. In just a few breaths, he was dozens of kilometers away from the manor. At this time, Kai Hong was filled with regret. If he had known this would happen, he would not have built his residence in the forest. It would have been better to live in a big city. It would have been easier to hide. Kai Hong had just flown to the edge of the forest when he saw a red figure flash in front of him. Yang Nancy had suddenly appeared in front of him. Kai Hong had no choice but to fight now. He was a Star-Lord cultivator. Although he usually kept a low profile, nobody dared to provoke him. However, as soon as he felt his anger rise, he immediately took out a huge weapon that looked like a spiked club from his storage bracelet. Yang Nancy landed on the ground and looked at Kai Hong with a smile. He called out, "Kai Hong," her voice sounded very gentle. Kai Hong could not help but be stunned. He stared into Yang Nancy's eyes and grunted. This glance caused Kai Hong's mind to become muddled. In his eyes, Yang Nancy's eyes were like black holes that could suck his body in. "Not good," Kai Hong shouted in his mind. He immediately turned his head to avoid Yang Nancy's eyes. This was another inherited combat technique of the Jade Sun race. It could be called bewitching and had the effect of confusing the opponent's mind. This combat technique was most suitable for a woman of the Jade Sun race. And the more beautiful the woman, the better. Although his realm was higher than Yang Nancy's, Kai Hong was still momentarily dazed. This time, he was about to lose his life. When Kai Hong came back to his senses, Yang Nancy's blade was already at his head. Kai Hong could not dodge in time and had to raise his weapon to block the blade. Pung! There was a loud sound. Yang Nancy felt the blade in her hand stop for a moment, and then smoothly slashed into the ground. The blade chi spread out, creating a trench that was dozens of meters deep and 5 meters wide. It extended into the distance. As for Kai Hong, he and his weapon had been cut in half. Victory! Seeing Kai Hong being forced back by the blade chi and half of his body that was dozens of meters away, Yang Nancy smiled. A look of incomparable confidence appeared in her eyes. When Yang Tian saw the look in Yang Nancy's eyes, he smiled with relief. Then, he entered the black dragon ship. The little blue dragon had already returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. Yang Nancy was in high spirits, and was about to go back to Yang Tian to brag about her achievement when she saw Yang Tian's ship take off and fly toward outer space. Yang Tian had left. Yang Nancy knew that Yang Tian had really left the Northern Reach starfield. Perhaps she would not see Yang Tian again for a long time. Watching the black dragon ship disappear into the sky, Yang Nancy murmured, "He didn't even tell me he was leaving." Then, she waved her blade and cut Kai Hong's body, which had just reformed, into two again. On the black dragon ship, the little blue dragon asked Yang Tian why he suddenly left. Yang Tian said with a smile, "She has the ability to protect little Tian now." The black dragon ship soon returned to the sky above the flame star. Looking at the situation on the flame star, Yang Tian was about to order the ship to return to the Ketla star when suddenly, a powerful aura appeared. Chapter 584. Tian Hun finally found the flame star. Hovering in the starry sky, Tian Hun quietly looked at the flame star. Suddenly, he moved and landed on the flame star. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon discovered Tian Hun's existence, but Tian Hun didn't discover Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. After observing the flame star for a while, Tian Hun quickly found the fragment of the formation stone that Yang Tian had destroyed. Looking up at the position of the star in the sky, Tian Hun was certain that this was the planet he should have been teleported to. Through a series of calculations, Tian Hun understood that the energy that had been consumed wasn't because someone had broken the seal. Instead, someone had used the teleportation formation to absorb the energy. Tian Hun was very curious about who or what could have absorbed so much energy. After all, this was something he couldn't do. After observing the flame star for a while, Tian Hun didn't discover any powerful cultivators, not even a superstar realm cultivator. If he wanted to know the specific situation, he should find someone to ask. With this thought, Tian Hun moved and appeared several hundred kilometers away in an instant. Apart from the Jade Sun race, which was the current God Martial clan, there were many other cultivators on the flame star. An unlucky cultivator at the planet area lord level was targeted by Tian Hun. This person was practicing a battle skill on a rock when a black shadow suddenly flashed in front of him. A black-robed man appeared in front of him. Before this person could react, his neck was grabbed by Tian Hun, and his body became limp and numb. Then, he was lifted up. "Tell me, what's with that talisman formation in the distance?" Tian Hun asked coldly in a hoarse voice. This cultivator felt that if he couldn't answer, he would be killed. Fortunately, he knew this and immediately answered, "Jade Sun race, the current God Martial clan." Jade Sun race? Of course Tian Hun knew about this race. Moreover, a long time ago, the Jade Sun race seemed to have asked some experts to remove the seal in their bodies. Tian Hun suddenly understood when he thought of this. For a top expert who had lived for countless years, it was too easy for him to understand some things. Crack! Tian Hun exerted force and broke the cultivator's neck before leaving in a flash. When he reappeared, Tian Hun had already arrived at the Jade Sun race's encampment. "Who are you? Please leave this place," a Jade Sun woman shouted when she saw Tian Hun. Tian Hun merely waved his hand lightly. With a loud bang, the young Jade Sun woman who had shouted at him suddenly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. After killing one Jade Sun tribesman, the other Jade Sun tribesmen immediately surrounded them. Yang Tian was in the camp. When he saw his elder sister being killed by the black-robed man, extreme anger rose in his chest, and he rushed over. Why are there only women and children? Where are the men in your clan? Tian Hun glanced around and said indifferently. No one replied to Heavenly Hound. They all looked at Heavenly Hound warily. A cruel smile flashed across Old Man Tian Hun's face as he prepared to kill all the Jade Sun tribe members. This way, he could at least force out the person he wanted to meet. Before he could make a move, a faint voice came from the sky. The person you're looking for is me, right? I'm the one who drew that talisman array. As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, Tian Hun moved and instantly appeared in the outer space of the flame planet. At that moment, Yang Tian was standing on the Black Dragon spaceship. Sizing up Yang Tian, who was standing on top of the spaceship, Tian Hun said indifferently, Major Star Lord Realm. Less than 100 years old. What a genius! While speaking, Tian Hun also glanced at the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder. Naturally, Tian Hun could tell that the little blue dragon was a Major Star Lord Realm exotic beast. However, this was of no use to him. Even if Yang Tian and the little blue dragon worked together, they still wouldn't be able to defeat him. Yang Tian only smiled at Tian Hun's praise and said, Follow me if you want to know the answer. After saying that, Yang Tian moved and disappeared from the spaceship. When he reappeared, he was already in the void millions of kilometers away from the flame planet. When Yang Tian appeared, Tian Hun also appeared in front of Yang Tian. When Yang Tian had been flying, Tian Hun had been following Yang Tian. Even now, Yang Tian still didn't know who this major star god expert was. However, he knew that this person must have something to do with the sealed energy. Yang Tian had gritted his teeth and led this person here. Naturally, he didn't want Yang Tian to be unlucky. If he had appeared 1 second later, Yang Tian would probably have been killed. Considering how strong this person was, he could kill tens of millions of people with one move. What's your name? When I look at you, I find you very familiar. Tian Hun looked at Yang Tian and put down the cloak on his head, revealing an old face. He asked with a smile. Yang Tian. Yang Tian didn't hide anything and replied straightforwardly. Tian Hun laughed. So you're Yang Tian. This old man remembers now. I thought that another incredible youth had appeared in the universe. So it's you. You know me? Yang Tian asked with a frown. Tian Hun said, This old man knew your name before you entered the Superstar God Temple. Guess who this old man is? This person talked a lot. Yang Tian was happy to hear that. He knew that he would most likely have to fight with this person later. Even if he and the little blue dragon worked together, they wouldn't be this person's match. Every moment that he could buy was a moment. After experiencing many life and death crises, Yang Tian was very calm when facing such an opponent. Yang Tian also felt that it was a pity that the little blue dragon couldn't reach the major star god realm. If the little blue dragon had reached the major star god realm, this old man in front of him wouldn't be a concern. You are. Yang Tian quickly thought. This old man clearly hadn't seen him with his own eyes. Then why was he paying attention to him? Yang Tian recalled the process from when he left Earth to when he entered the Superstar Academy. You're not the leader of that mysterious organization, are you? Yang Tian actually didn't think of who this person was, but he still responded like this. Tian Hun laughed and said, Do you know why this old man didn't kill you immediately when I saw you? Yang Tian frowned and shook his head. Hand over the seed of the world tree, and this old man will let you go, Tian Hun said indifferently. Tian Hun's words finally made Yang Tian remember. So this old man was from that mysterious organization. With this person's realm, he was definitely a leader-like figure. Yang Tian shook his head. I can't hand it over to you. If I really hand it over, you won't let me go, right? If I keep the seed of the world tree, you won't bear to kill me. You're very smart, Tianhun said. I won't kill you, but this old man can kill everyone in the Jade Sun race. There must be someone very important to you in the Jade Sun race, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have lured this old man here. After Tianhun finished speaking, Yang Tian felt a wave of powerlessness. This old man in front of him seemed to have turned into a spirit. Everything seemed to be within his calculations. He couldn't beat him, and he couldn't escape either. This was a very troublesome matter for Yang Tian. Seeing Yang Tian's expression constantly changing, Tianhun laughed and said, You can make a bet. If you hand over the seed of the world tree, this old man won't kill you and the people of the Jade Sun race. After Tianhun finished speaking, Yang Tian narrowed his eyes slightly. Yang Tian wasn't willing to gamble with his and his son's lives. Old fart Tianhun, you're threatening the younger generation again. How shameless! Just as Yang Tian was feeling pained, a middle-aged man's voice suddenly sounded from the side. Immediately after, a sturdy-looking middle-aged man appeared. When Tianhun saw who it was, his expression darkened. He said, Immeasurable Star-Lord, this has nothing to do with you. This middle-aged man was Immeasurable Star-Lord. Chapter 585. From Immeasurable Star-Lord's words, Yang Tian finally knew that this old man in front of him was called Heavenhun. It was still Yang Tian's first time hearing this name. It could be seen that Heavenhun concealed himself very deeply. None of my business. Seeing Heavenhun's gloomy expression, Immeasurable Star-Lord laughed coldly, turned his head to give Yang Tian a glance, and said to Heavenhun, You ask Yang Tian if it has anything to do with me or not. Yang Tian chuckled, scratched his head, and said to Immeasurable Star-Lord, Lord Father-in-law, why are you here? With Yang Tian saying so, Heavenhun finally understood. It seemed like the rumors outside were true. The Super-Star Divine Temple's present Her Excellency Divine Daughter was married before. This old man hasn't fought with people for a long time. This time, it's just nice to exchange pointers with Immeasurable Star-Lord. As Heavenhun said, he then said to Yang Tian, Young man, don't take the opportunity to run. If this old man wins, you still have to hand over the thing. If this old man loses. Talking up to here, Heavenhun did not continue. It was said to exchange pointers, but in reality, the following battle would definitely be either you or I live. After Heavenhun finished talking, Yang Tian looked at Immeasurable Star-Lord and saw Immeasurable Star-Lord say in Chinese, This old man can't beat this old fellow. If this old man is finished, take good care of my daughter in the future. The moment Yang Tian heard this sentence, he could not help being taken aback. Immeasurable Star-Lord actually knew the language of Earth. But after understanding Immeasurable Star-Lord's meaning, Yang Tian was also very surprised. Immeasurable Star-Lord's words sounded like he was making arrangements for his death. Immeasurable Star-Lord, these three words would give people a kind of misleading, thinking that Immeasurable Star-Lord was Grand Star-Lord Realm. But in reality, this was just a name. Immeasurable Star-Lord was also a Grand Star God Realm cultivator. It was just that compared to Heavenhun, his combat power was a little weaker. Heavenhun becoming a Grand Star God Realm was actually even earlier than the Super-Star Divine Temple's Great Priest Empty God. While Yang Tian was in a daze, Immeasurable Star-Lord waved his hand. A powerful force wrapped around Yang Tian and threw Yang Tian into the spatial tunnel he had opened. But Heavenhuntian was shrewd and had long since taken precautions. The moment Yang Tian and the little blue dragon entered the spatial passage, Heavenhuntian swept them out. Seeing Yang Tian disappear and reappear, Boundless Star-Lord shook his head helplessly. It seemed that if he wanted to save Yang Tian this time, not only would he not be able to save him, he might even lose his life. Immeasurable Star-Lord had originally planned to send Yang Tian away. Even if he couldn't defeat Tianhun, he could still run. If immeasurable Star-Lord wanted to leave, Heavenly Hun would not be able to make him stay. Unexpectedly, Heavenly Hun had already seen through his intentions. What should he do now? He could only fight. Of course, immeasurable Star-Lord wouldn't leave Yang Tian here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have appeared. The first to make a move was immeasurable Star-Lord. He looked at Heaven Hun with a gentle smile, but suddenly, he sent a palm strike at Heaven Hun. To Yang Tian, immeasurable Star-Lord's palm strike was a little too sudden. He had thought that immeasurable Star-Lord wanted to say something to Heaven Hun. This allowed Yang Tian to see how unscrupulous top powerhouses could be in a fight. When immeasurable Star-Lord sent out his palm strike, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were pushed away by a powerful force. Heaven Hun stood still as a powerful force enveloped his body. This force was like a large bubble. After enveloping Heaven Hun, it rapidly shrunk, wanting to compress him into a ball. Even a planet could be crushed by the immeasurable Star-Lord's punch. This was a type of powerful spatial energy. Heaven Hun, who was enveloped by this spatial energy, opened his eyes. He raised his hands and parted them to the side. This powerful spatial energy was broken. Immediately after, Tian Hun put his palms together, and with a bang, the surrounding space started to tremble like a stream of water. Next, Heaven Hun sent out another punch. The powerful fist energy followed the spatial ripples and rushed toward immeasurable Star-Lord. Facing this punch, immeasurable Star-Lord also sent out a punch. But because of the spatial ripples, it was like waves of water. There was no pattern. Immeasurable Star-Lord's punch brushed past Heaven Hun's body. As for Tianhuan's fist force, it landed on immeasurable Star-Lord's left shoulder with a bang. Immeasurable Star-Lord's energy defense was unable to block this punch. His entire left shoulder was shattered, and a large piece was missing. Immeasurable Star-Lord had suffered heavy injuries from the first exchange of blows. The key wasn't that his left shoulder was missing, but that Heaven Hun's strange energy had entered his body. Bang! Suddenly, immeasurable Star-Lord clenched his teeth and forced out the energy that had invaded his body. Blood and flesh spurted out of his missing left shoulder. The great Star-Lord's physical body was extremely powerful. After forcing Heaven Hun's energy out of his body, immeasurable Star-Lord's left shoulder wound healed at an extremely fast speed. Immeasurable Star-Lord and Heaven Hun weren't wearing armor. They were dressed in black, because armor wasn't of much use to them. It was just a tool to set off their aura. Seeing immeasurable Star-Lord injured and pushed far away, he couldn't help but clench his fists. If immeasurable Star-Lord was killed by Heaven Hun here, how would he face Qin Fei when he saw her in the future? No, I have to think of a way. Yang Tian clenched his teeth and thought quickly. The injured immeasurable Star-Lord maintained a calm expression. After forcing out Heaven Hun's fist energy, he sent another punch at Heaven Hun. Immeasurable Star-Lord and Heaven Hun's battle speed seemed much slower compared to the battle speed of cultivators below the superstar realm. However, the energy they used was unimaginable. It seemed slow, but the process of the battle was extremely dangerous. What the onlookers saw as slow was actually because they had used a type of energy field to lock the surrounding space. In this domain, cultivators below the great Star-Lord realm would be lucky if they didn't get crushed to death by the spatial energy, let alone move. Therefore, immeasurable Star-Lord forced Yang Tian away when he attacked. Boom! When immeasurable Star-Lord forced out the fist energy that had invaded his body, Heaven Hun took the opportunity to rush over and attack him with a palm. The energy from the fist and palm collided with each other, creating a loud sound. Immeasurable Star-Lord and Heaven Hun were forced to retreat from the powerful impact. At this time, a pitch-black ball could be seen at the place where the energy had collided. It disappeared in a flash. This was because the two's power had caused a part of the space to collapse. After the two of them separated, they rushed towards each other at the same time. In this extremely short period of time, Immeasurable Star-Lord's left shoulder had recovered. It could only be seen from the hole in his clothes that his left shoulder was missing. Although Yang Tian was watching the two fight, his mind wasn't on it. He quickly thought of a risky method. The reason why he said it was risky was because even he wasn't sure if he could succeed. Even if the cultivators in the Superstar Divinity Temple who had been modified failed, they could still explode with powerful energy for a short period of time. And what made them change was that mysterious young man's cells. Pung! Just as Yang Tian was hesitating whether to do that, Immeasurable Star-Lord was injured again. This time, the wound was on his abdomen. Immeasurable Star-Lord's abdomen had been pierced by Heaven Hun's fist. A fist-sized hole appeared in his abdomen, and his broken intestines flowed out. The injury this time was clearly more serious than before. If a normal human suffered such a serious injury, they would have already been declared dead. But Immeasurable Star-Lord was still calm as he continued to fight. Seeing this, Yang Tian gritted his teeth and waved his hand. Dozens of oval-shaped red balls that he had put away in his storage bracelet not long ago appeared around him. Then, Yang Tian took off his armor and quickly transformed into a 20-meter-long dragon. He opened his mouth and sucked in the dozens of red balls that were released into his mouth. These red balls were formed from the mysterious young man's cells after absorbing enough energy from the seal. They contained a huge amount of energy. Chapter 586. Tianhun and Immeasurable Star-Lord were in the midst of a fierce battle. Although he had already noticed Yang Tian's unusual actions, he did not make a move to stop it. To Tianhun, the most important thing now was to deal with Immeasurable Star-Lord. As long as he got rid of this eyesore, Yang Tian would be at his mercy. The World Tree Seed was very important to Tianhun. Legend had it that the World Tree possessed powerful life energy. If one could absorb this life energy, they would have an endless lifespan. Back then, Tianhun had formulated a precise plan to stir up conflict between the Music Boundary Starfield and Superstar Divinity Temple, successfully destroying the Music Boundary Starfield. However, he did not expect that the successor of the Music Boundary Starfield would rather destroy the World Tree than let it fall into the hands of outsiders. Just as Tianhun thought that his efforts were in vain, he learned that the World Tree had left behind a seed before it was destroyed. It had to be said that Tianhun was an extremely patient person. If it were anyone else, they might have long given up after such a long time. Immeasurable Star-Lord naturally also saw the situation on Yang Tian's side. He did not understand Yang Tian's actions. Could it be that after transforming into a star beast, he could defeat Tianhun? What else could he do but escape now? As long as Yang Tian was willing to leave, Immeasurable Star-Lord would create an opportunity for him even if he had to risk his life. Immeasurable Star-Lord was not Yang Tian, so he naturally could not understand Yang Tian's concerns. To Yang Tian, a person living in this world could not only care about themselves, but also about their loved ones. Little Blue Dragon did not expect Yang Tian to actually do this. When it saw Yang Tian devouring more than a dozen cells that contained powerful energy, its eyes widened in shock. Yang Tian had also taken out these cells for it to see. Until now, it and Yang Tian still had not figured out how to extract pure energy from these cells. The strange program was still calculating, designing a rune array to extract the energy from these cells for Yang Tian. However, Yang Tian had actually directly swallowed them into his stomach. Little Blue Dragon knew that Yang Tian was going all out. Otherwise, Yang Tian would never have done such a reckless thing. In order to prevent Yang Tian from being disturbed, the Little Blue Dragon immediately transformed into a giant dragon that was twice the size of Yang Tian's current body. It circled around and surrounded Yang Tian. Roar! The moment this powerful cell body entered his body, it overflowed with powerful energy. The energy attacked Yang Tian's dragon body, causing Yang Tian to open his mouth and roar. Although the energy was enormous, Yang Tian could clearly feel that the rate at which these cells released energy was not as fast as that of beast cores. This made Yang Tian feel relieved. He was already prepared, so he didn't swallow all the cells at once. This rate of energy release was still unable to satisfy Yang Tian's requirement. At this rate, he didn't know how long it would take for him to ascend to the great astral god realm. What Yang Tian needed now was speed. To him, the battle between the immeasurable Star-Lord and Tian Hun was like buying time for him. Thus, Yang Tian opened his mouth again and sucked the remaining red cells into his mouth and swallowed them into his stomach. 3 minutes later. Roar! Yang Tian, who had transformed into a dragon, suddenly opened his mouth and let out a roar. This was a venting sound because at this moment Yang Tian was in too much pain. Only 1/3 of the huge amount of energy entered his energy world, and the remaining 2/3 could only be endured by his body. Fortunately, after transforming into a dragon, his body's cells had changed, and his physique had become much stronger. If he still had a human body, his body would have exploded from this energy. When he swallowed these cells, Yang Tian hoped that he could be transformed by these cells and ascend from the great astral lord realm to the great astral god realm. This way, he would at least have the strength to fight against Tian Hun. At that time, it wouldn't be impossible for him and the immeasurable Star-Lord to defeat Tian Hun together. However, after swallowing these cells, it seemed to be different from what Yang Tian had expected. These cell bodies simply released energy and did not modify the cells in his body. Yang Tian had just become a great astral lord, and his body hadn't fully adapted yet. In other words, Yang Tian's body cells were still in a cellular state. The demand for energy wasn't particularly high. If the energy couldn't be released, the consequences would be very serious. Yang Tian was in so much pain that he could no longer control his body. He kept rolling around in the air as he howled in pain. Although it was painful, the origin realm in Yang Tian's body was slowly expanding. With the replenishment of energy, it expanded very smoothly. However, this speed wasn't fast enough. While enduring the physical pain, Yang Tian used his mental power to guide more energy into the origin realm. The energy overflowing from the cells was red. The energy that entered Yang Tian's origin realm was also red. However, as soon as it entered the origin realm, the energy was assimilated by the origin realm and became invisible. However, at this moment, apart from Yang Tian's power world, his body cells were also absorbing the red energy. After absorbing a large amount of this energy, Yang Tian's enormous dragon body gradually turned red, from blue to red. Even his scales became blood red, making him look like a blood dragon. At the same time, powerful energy waves spread out from Yang Tian's body. This energy aura had already surpassed the great astral lord level. Also, it was clearly becoming stronger. Although Yang Tian was becoming stronger at an extremely fast speed, the little blue dragon's eyes were still full of worry. In the distance, the immeasurable Star-Lord and Tian Hun naturally noticed the changes on Yang Tian's side. It was a pleasant surprise for the immeasurable Star-Lord. This was because as long as Yang Tian became stronger, his chances of survival would be much higher. And for Tian Hun, this was obviously not a good thing. Boom! There was a loud noise. Tian Hun used his most powerful palm strike and hit the immeasurable Star-Lord. In this short period of time, the immeasurable Star-Lord's body was wrapped in a black curtain and disappeared in a flash. This palm strike seemed to be attacking the immeasurable Star-Lord's body, but in fact Tian Hun had opened a space tunnel beside the immeasurable Star-Lord and blasted him into it. Tian Hun was very smart. He instantly determined the best and fastest way to resolve the matter in front of him. The immeasurable Star-Lord who had been blasted into the space tunnel naturally wouldn't die, but he would be temporarily lost in this universe. By the time the immeasurable Star-Lord returned here, he would have already taken Yang Tian away. After blasting the immeasurable Star-Lord away, Tian Hun flashed and appeared above the little blue dragon's head, slamming down with his palm. Little Qing had been paying attention to Tian Hun. When it sensed the energy ripple above its head, it quickly shrunk its head. Luckily, the little blue dragon reacted quickly and Tian Hun's palm strike missed. Although it had dodged Tian Hun's attack, the little blue dragon suddenly felt that the space around it had solidified, making it difficult for it to move. This was the great star god's ability to freeze space. Even the powerful little blue dragon could only be trapped. Tian Hun knew that the little blue dragon was very important to Yang Tian. Before he obtained the seed of the world tree, he would not kill the little blue dragon. He stepped on the little blue dragon's huge body and looked down. Yang Tian, who had transformed into a dragon and was surrounded by the little blue dragon's huge body, appeared in front of Tian Hun's eyes. At that moment, Yang Tian's body was rolling around, appearing to be in extreme pain. Because space had been frozen, his movements were only a little faster than the little blue dragon's. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was like moving in slow motion. Yang Tian's eyes were closed and he was in a dazed state. It was as if he had gone through excessive pain and was mentally exhausted. However, the strange thing was that Yang Tian felt like he had become another person, a stranger. At the same time, an unfamiliar memory appeared in his mind. Chapter 587. This was another person's memory. Although it was only a part of it, the moment it appeared in Yang Tian's mind, it made Yang Tian feel extremely conflicted. He felt as though he had become another person. In this memory, there were many strange scenes that Yang Tian felt appeared. For example, the structure of the world. It was actually not the universe, but an entire piece of land that was incomparably vast. In between the land, it was a vast expanse of whiteness. Apart from this, there were many unfamiliar people and unfamiliar things. In this memory, Yang Tian actually saw Shi Chen Yuyu, the goddess of the eternal life shrine. Seeing these fragmented memories, Yang Tian immediately understood that the unfamiliar memories that appeared in his mind belonged to that mysterious young man. This person's name was He Luoyang, a very strange name. Many people thought that goddess Shi Chen and He Luoyang were a pair of lovers. However, from these fragmented memories, Yang Tian knew that the two of them were not lovers, but master and disciple. He Luoyang was not very powerful in that mysterious world outside of this universe. His strength was average, but his family background was not bad. Through these fragmented memories, Yang Tian could see that He Luoyang was a little interested in Shi Chen Yuyu. What appeared in Yang Tian's mind were only the deepest memories of He Luoyang. In the end, Yang Tian even knew how he died, when he was besieged by countless experts in this universe. Suddenly, a black-robed masked man who was standing on a green bird appeared. He drew a line in the air. With a simple wave of his hand, the powerful He Luoyang was beheaded. You don't belong here. You crossed the boundary without permission. You are punished to be imprisoned for 100 million years. At the last moment of his memory, He Luoyang heard the old man's indifferent voice. Wasn't this black-robed man the black-robed old man that he had seen before? Yang Tian still remembered that when they parted, the little blue dragon and the green bird were reluctant to part. Yang Tian previously thought that this black-robed old man was only slightly stronger than the great star gods, but now his realm was simply unfathomable. With just a wave of his hand, he got rid of He Luoyang, who many great star gods were helpless against. These fragmented memories solved some of the doubts that had existed in Yang Tian's heart for a long time. After knowing this, Yang Tian was no longer afraid that He Luoyang would awaken in his body. This was because He Luoyang's consciousness had already been taken away by that mysterious old man and sealed. After Yang Tian relaxed his consciousness, he no longer resisted the memories appearing. These memories became clearer and clearer in his mind. At this combat skill, suddenly Yang Tian cried out in surprise in his mind. Because he comprehended He Luoyang, from He Luoyang, if it was before He Luoyang's memories appeared, this kind of enormous energy would have instantly caused Yang Tian's body to explode. But now, after the energy had melted, it became incomparably docile. Under Yang Tian's will, it condensed into a ball, leaving only a small portion that was still swimming in his body. Yang Tian guessed that this was because these energies had mistaken him for the original owner. Although energies didn't have self-consciousness, the energies cultivated by different people all had specific attributes and markings. Other than the owner, even if others obtained them, they wouldn't be able to use them directly. Unless they were assimilated, just like the energies that Yang Tian had entered Yang Tian's origin realm and were assimilated by the origin realm. Only then could they be transformed into one's own energy. The process of swallowing beast cores and absorbing their energy was actually a kind of assimilation. If one absorbed too much during this process, not only would they not be able to raise their realm, but they would also cause great damage to their body, and they might even explode and die. In Yang Tian's body, when the red energy condensed into a ball, a terrifying aura erupted from Yang Tian's body. The moment this aura appeared, it actually scattered the domain that Tian Hun had set up in the surrounding space. The little blue dragon, who had regained its freedom, swung its tail and shook its body, flinging the shocked Tian Hun to the side. The little blue dragon loathed Tian Hun, who had stood on its body without its permission. After shaking off Tian Hun, the little blue dragon turned its huge dragon head and prepared to attack Tian Hun. Tian Hun's figure suddenly flickered and disappeared. Tian Hun didn't leave. When he reappeared, he was already beside Yang Tian's dragon head, about 30 meters away from Yang Tian. At this time, Yang Tian opened his two large dragon eyes. The little blue dragon had never seen Yang Tian have such a sharp gaze. It was as if this gaze could kill. Tian Hun was extremely small compared to Yang Tian, who had transformed into a giant dragon. However, he possessed a powerful energy that didn't match his body. Realizing that Yang Tian's body had become dangerous, Tian Hun appeared and struck out with his strongest palm, aiming for Yang Tian's forehead. At this time, a black sphere appeared under his palm. This ping-pong-sized black sphere was like a black hole in the universe, causing the surrounding space to distort. The black sphere instantly left Tian Hun's palm and shot toward Yang Tian. During this process, the black sphere rapidly grew in size. This black sphere couldn't be underestimated. It could make a massive star disappear from this universe. The energy that a great star god cultivator possessed was already at the edge of what this world could tolerate. If he became any stronger, it would be considered overstepping his boundaries. Yang Tian's transformation made Tian Hun no longer consider preserving Yang Tian's life. This was because the current Yang Tian gave him immense pressure. His intuition told him that if this palm didn't kill Yang Tian, he would be in big trouble. Yang Tian had obtained an incomparably powerful energy. Coupled with a portion of He Luoyang's memories, his strength had already reached the standard of overstepping boundaries. At this time, Yang Tian clearly felt that this universe had produced a faint repulsive force against him. Facing the incoming black ball, Yang Tian opened his mouth and sucked the black ball into his mouth. The black ball with terrifying destructive power disappeared just like that. Tian Hun, who had struck out with his palm, had already left his original spot and appeared not far behind Yang Tian. He wanted to see if this palm strike could kill the current Yang Tian. The result disappointed him very much. At the same time, it also shocked him. Tian Hun believed that even the Superstar God Temple's High Priest Empty God wouldn't dare take this move head-on. He could only dodge. However, his strongest attack had been easily neutralized by Yang Tian. Not long ago, Yang Tian had only been a great Star Lord cultivator. He could kill Yang Tian with a flick of his finger. But now, Yang Tian was able to easily neutralize his powerful attack. This contrast made Tian Hun very uncomfortable. There was nothing he could do about it. He was no longer Yang Tian's match. If he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to. With a thought, Tian Hun's figure flashed and escaped into a spatial passageway in an attempt to escape. Using a spatial passageway, a great star god could instantly travel from one corner of the universe to another corner. It was even faster than using a teleportation array disk. At that moment, Tian Hun had disappeared from the little blue dragon's eyes. However, Yang Tian lowered his head and looked curiously at the space below. There, Tian Hun was like a fish in a fish tank, slowly moving. This situation gave Yang Tian the feeling that he was in control of the entire universe. Yang Tian stared curiously for a very long time. To him, it was a very long time, but to the little blue dragon and Tian Hun, it was only an instant. At that moment, Yang Tian felt the memories in his mind suddenly become blurry. At the same time, more than half of the energy in his body had been used up. He couldn't wait any longer. He had to kill Tian Hun immediately. Yang Tian immediately understood that his powerful ability was only temporary. It wouldn't last for long. If he waited any longer, his realm would fall and he would return to his previous state. With a thought, Yang Tian's dragon whisker whipped down and hit Tian Hun's head. Tian Hun had just come out of the spatial passageway and thought that he was safe. He didn't expect a terrifying energy to attack him from above. He didn't even have the chance to dodge. Pung! Tian Hun's body was turned into a bloody mist by Yang Tian's attack. This bloody mist wanted to condense and take shape again, but Yang Tian opened his mouth and spat out a very beautiful flame that emitted 9-colored light. It was like a rainbow cloud that enveloped the bloody mist. In just an instant, this bloody mist turned into the most basic particles of the universe. This was also Yang Tian's final attack. After spitting out this flame, all the energy he had absorbed before, except for the energy that entered the origin realm and was absorbed by the cells in his body, had disappeared. At the same time, in his mind, He Luoyang's memories also became blurry and finally disappeared. After killing Tian Hun, Yang Tian was stunned for a long time and kept shaking his head. The situation just now was like a brief dream of becoming a powerhouse. Now that he thought about it, it felt very unreal. Roar! Seeing that Yang Tian was fine, the little blue dragon opened his mouth and roared. Hearing the little blue dragon's roar, Yang Tian completely woke up. Yang Tian was about to ask the little blue dragon if what happened just now was real when he suddenly blacked out and fell asleep. The unconscious Yang Tian didn't have any chaotic energy fluctuations on his body, which made the little blue dragon feel relieved. It raised its head and glanced around. It swam around and used its huge body to encircle Yang Tian again, quietly waiting for Yang Tian to wake up. The battle just now made the little blue dragon a little discouraged. It felt that it didn't help Yang Tian, and its eyes looked a little lonely. More than 10 minutes later, not far away, there was a fluctuation in space, and Immeasurable Starlord appeared. Seeing that Yang Tian was fine, Immeasurable Starlord nodded and relaxed his nervous heart. At the same time, he also felt strange and thought, where did that old guy Tian Hun go? Chapter 588. Immeasurable Starlord still didn't know that Tian Hun had already been killed by Yang Tian. Even if Yang Tian woke up and told him what had happened, Immeasurable Starlord probably wouldn't believe him. Although Immeasurable Starlord had helped Yang Tian before, the little blue dragon's eyes staring at Immeasurable Starlord were incomparably cold and guarded. In this world, the little blue dragon would only believe Yang Tian. Other strangers were all hidden enemies to it. Seeing that the little blue dragon was wary of him, Immeasurable Starlord felt bored and left. Immeasurable Starlord didn't leave and looked at Yang Tian from afar. He wanted to know what had happened after he was blasted into the spatial passage by Tian Hun. Immeasurable Starlord guessed that Yang Tian must have handed over the thing that Tian Hun wanted. At the thought of this possibility, Immeasurable Star-Lord felt somewhat glad and also somewhat angry. He was glad that Yang Tian was fine. He was angry because, in any case, Immeasurable Star-Lord couldn't describe this feeling. It was like a father seeing his son survive from the hands of a powerful enemy. He was happy, but at the same time, he was dissatisfied that his son wasn't unyielding enough in order to save his life. This was a very contradictory state of mind. If calculated according to the time on Earth, Yang Tian slept for about 7 days and 7 nights before finally waking up. After Yang Tian woke up, he transformed back into a human. The little blue dragon had long put away the clothes, armor, storage bracelet, and other things that Yang Tian used when he transformed. The moment Yang Tian transformed back into a human, the little blue dragon spat out these things from its mouth and handed them to Yang Tian. After Yang Tian put on the clothes and armor, Immeasurable Star-Lord flashed over and appeared in front of Yang Tian. "Many thanks, father-in-law." Yang Tian was stunned when he saw Immeasurable Star-Lord, then he scratched his head and smiled. Facing the Immeasurable Star-Lord, Yang Tian really didn't know what to say. Immeasurable Star-Lord carefully sized up Yang Tian. He didn't express any opinion on how Yang Tian addressed him. He asked indifferently, "Where's that old geezer Tianhun? Heavenly chaos?" To be honest, the situation just now was like a dream to Yang Tian. Although that was the case, Yang Tian knew that it was real. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't be here right now. Instead, he would have been captured by Tianhun and taken to some unknown place. "Tianhun is already dead," Yang Tian replied after some thought. "Dead?" When Immeasurable Star-Lord heard this, he was extremely shocked. He then asked, "How did he die?" Yang Tian really wanted to say that he was killed by his sudden burst of luck, but looking at his current realm, Immeasurable Star-Lord definitely wouldn't believe it. Besides, even if Immeasurable Star-Lord believed it, it would be very troublesome to explain the changes in his body. Yang Tian rolled his eyes and said, "He was killed by a black-clothed, masked man riding a bird. That person just waved his hand." As he spoke, Yang Tian gestured what he saw in his dream. Although this memory was already very vague, Yang Tian still remembered the movements of that black-clothed, masked man. Seeing Yang Tian's gesture, Immeasurable Star-Lord couldn't help but frown, his eyes full of shock. Yang Tian could tell from Immeasurable Star-Lord's eyes that Immeasurable Star-Lord was very likely present when that black-clothed old man killed He Luoyang that day. "Continue to work hard," Immeasurable Star-Lord said indifferently and left in a flash. After Immeasurable Star-Lord left, the little blue dragon turned back into a mini dragon and returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. Very soon, Yang Tian returned to the Black Dragon spaceship. In fact, after waking up, Yang Tian felt as if his body had been hollowed out, and he was sore and powerless. Yang Tian, who was worried that there would be sequelae, lay down on the seat of the cockpit as soon as he returned to the spaceship and began to observe his physical condition. After a careful examination, Yang Tian was finally relieved. Although he didn't succeed in advancing, and his realm remained at the level of a major Star-Lord, his origin realm had expanded at least a few times, and the capacity of his cells had also increased. The reason why he felt powerless was mainly on the mental level. It was like an ordinary person who had a nightmare all night. Even if his body was fine, his mind would be somewhat affected. Fortunately, he could recover as long as he rested for a while. After 7 days, Jade's son Nancy returned to the Flame Planet. After receiving Yang Tian's notice, Zhu Liangshe hurriedly left the Flame Planet and entered Yang Tian's Black Dragon spaceship. Everything is good in the God Martial clan. After the princess removed the seal in her body, she displayed her bloodline power. The clansmen were all excited and treated her like a god. That little fellow Jade's son Tian is not bad, but he is still young and impulsive. However, after some training, he will definitely become a talent. After returning to the Black Dragon spaceship, Zhu Liangshe reported the affairs of the Jade Sun clan to Yang Tian in detail, and finally made a concluding statement. After hearing this, Yang Tian nodded in satisfaction and asked indifferently, "What about the things I asked you to give to her?" Zhu Liangshe smiled and said, "I have already given them to her. There are so many beast cores that they should be able to use for a long time. It shouldn't be difficult for them to settle down in this remote northern spill star field." After all, Brother Yang, you have already eliminated all their enemies. Yang Tian took out a storage bracelet that contained thousands of beast cores of various grades and placed them into another storage bracelet before unbinding it. These beast cores could support several cultivators to cultivate to the superstar realm, but they could not satisfy the entire clan. Yang Tian did not care much about the Jade Sun clan. He did this for the sake of Jade Sun Tian and Jade Sun Nancy. Zhu Liangshe had a lot to say, but Yang Tian, who was not in good spirits, insisted on listening to him. He ordered the Black Dragon spaceship to return to the Ketla planet and closed his eyes to sleep. When Yang Tian woke up, the spaceship was already parked in the outer space of the Flame planet. After another nap and swallowing a superstar warrior beast core, Yang Tian finally recovered his energy. Yang Tian did not want to land the spaceship on a planet again, so he got off the spaceship in space and stored it in his storage bracelet. During this process, Yang Tian used his mind power to protect Zhu Liangshe, so that he would not be harmed by the cosmic radiation. After storing the spaceship, Yang Tian carried Zhu Liangshe and landed in the manor of the 7 Light Rain and 7 Color Sisters. When Yang Tian arrived, he asked Belle to send a message to the sisters, but he did not get a response. It seemed that they were busy. After Yang Tian arrived, the manor, which had been renamed Azure Dragon, was very quiet. There was not a single person in sight. In this silence, there were dozens of weak auras. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon also heard a child crying. Something bad must have happened. Yang Tian immediately frowned and arrived at a small villa where the child's cries were coming from. The 2 sisters treated Zhu Wei and his men well. They had specially built a small villa-like house for these guards. There were dozens of these villas. They were very beautiful and exquisite, and they were neatly arranged. In the villa where the crying came from, the furniture and decorations were very messy, and there were signs of a fight. There were 2 people dead on the stairs on the first floor. Yang Tian saw them and knew that they were Zhu Wei's subordinates. It seemed that they had met a strong opponent and were killed without much resistance. Yang Tian walked up the stairs to the 2nd floor and pushed open the door to a bedroom. When Yang Tian saw the situation inside, his eyes widened and flames of anger ignited within them. Zhu Wei's wife, Qi Li Shi, had her neck slit and was lying in a pool of blood. Her body was twitching and she kept making hee-hee sounds. She wanted to say something but could not. At the side, a little boy with a broken leg was crying. Yang Tian had not returned for many years. This little boy should be Zhu Wei's son. He was named Zhu Chen by Zhu Wei, and he looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. Zhu Chen's legs were cut off by a sharp weapon. The wound was very smooth, probably because it was injected with a small intelligent machine. The wound was sealed, and he did not die from excessive blood loss. Yang Tian immediately released the intelligent assistant Belle from his storage bracelet, and let Belle immediately inform the nearby medical institutions to come and treat him. Qi Li Shi could not breathe because her windpipe was cut. Blood rushed into her lungs, and blood flowed out from her nose. If Yang Tian came a few minutes later, she would not be saved. Even a great star god realm cultivator could not save an ordinary person whose brain had died. Yang Tian squatted in front of Qi Li Shi. Powerful spiritual energy rushed out from his origin realm, turning into thousands of strands and entered Qi Li Shi's body. It began to maintain Qi Li Shi's vitality and heal her wounds. Zhu Chen had seen Yang Tian's photo before. After recognizing him, he called out, "Uncle Yang Tian," and fainted. There were also many small intelligent machines in Qi Lishi's blood, but because her injuries were too severe, these machines could not heal Qi Lishi's wounds in a short time. However, they allowed Qi Lishi to hold on for at least half an hour. In other words, this attack happened half an hour ago. While Yang Tian was saving Qi Lishi, 7 Light Rain, 7 Kai, Zhu Wei and 7 Light Hao were already in the Kaitra Business Alliance's headquarters building. This building had a few hundred floors, reaching into the clouds. It was the second tallest building on Kaitra after the government building. The Universe Business Alliance was a very powerful organization. Any company that joined the alliance would be protected by the alliance. The alliance also had the ability to protect the interests of these companies from being harmed. After countless years of development, the upper echelons of the alliance had undergone countless changes of power. It had basically become a dominant force. The one controlling the alliance was the Wei Shi family. The 199th floor of the Business Alliance building, in a small meeting room, 7 Light Rain, 7 Kai, Zhu Wei and 7 Light Hao sat together. Their faces were all filled with anger. Zhu Wei and 7 Light Hao had gone through a fierce battle. Their faces were covered in blood. Their black armor was given to them by Yang Tian. Its defense was amazing. However, this kind of armor was actually destroyed by someone. There were many cracks on the armor, and there were gaps on the chest and shoulders, covered in blood. Some of the runes on the armor were actually destroyed by someone with precise attack. This caused the armor to lose the defensive ability of the runes. It could be seen that the person who attacked them had great attainments in Talisman Dao. 7 Light Rain and 7 Kai were dressed neatly and their makeup was not smudged. It could be seen that the person who attacked them was very polite to them. Opposite the 4 of them sat a young man. This person had long golden hair. He was very handsome and had a noble aura. It was obvious that he came from a large family. This person sized up the 4 for a long time before finally smiling and saying, "Don't look at me with hatred and anger. I didn't send people to attack you. In fact, you should be thanking me. Because I was the one who took you from the Hongyu family. Otherwise, you might already be dead. You sure make it sound nice." 7 Light Rain stared at the golden-haired young man and sneered, "Weixadating, if the Hongyu family didn't have your approval, how would they dare to do such a thing? Only now did I realize that the merchant union is not a good thing. The billions that we handed over to the merchant union all these years are equivalent to feeding feces." Feces was a very ugly bug in the universe. 7 Light Rain's last sentence, in the words of Earth, was feeding the dog. After so many years of training, 7 Light Rain was no longer the girl that Yang Tian first met. Even in such a passive situation, 7 Light Rain still appeared very calm. 7 Kai's face was also very calm. Although he was scolded, Weixadating still had a smile on his face and said indifferently, "Don't you know that the world has changed? In the past, there was the superstar divine temple and the universe was still peaceful. But now, the newly risen temple of eternal life is about to have a decisive battle with it. That will be the greatest war in the history of the universe. What does this have to do with us?" Before Weixadating finished, 7 Light Rain said indifferently. Weixadating looked at 7 Light Rain and shook his head with a smile, saying, "I don't want to say anything more to you. Promise to hand over your resources and I'll let you go." After Weixadating finished speaking, 7 Kai suddenly raised her head and said with some surprise, "You want to establish a new order in the universe. How ambitious!" Ha 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 ha! Weixadating couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 589. Rainbow looked at Wei Shidong. "What are you laughing at? Did I say something wrong?" No. Wei Shidong waved his hand. "You didn't say anything wrong, in fact, you're absolutely right. I didn't expect Lil Jiao to be so smart. Many of the cultivators involved couldn't guess what our Wei Shi clan is thinking. 7 Light Rain and 7 Color were very famous now. They were called the two Jiao. The sister 7 Light Rain was called De Jiao, while 7 Color was Xiao Jiao. Many young masters from rich families wanted to marry one of them, or even both at the same time. Not only were they beautiful, but they were also very capable. After Wei Shidong finished, 7 Color lowered her head. She didn't want to talk to this person anymore. At this moment, Zhu Wei looked at Wei Shidong and sneered. Just your Wei Shi clan wants to establish a new order in the universe. That's ridiculous. Even if the 2 temples were destroyed and all the top fighters in them died, it still wouldn't be your turn. Wei Shidong laughed. You're wrong, our Wei Shi clan doesn't want to rule the universe, we just want to unite with other clans. At this point, Wei Shidong didn't continue. Now that things hadn't started, he didn't want to leak the news. The reason why he said so much to the 4 was because after this matter was over, Wei Shidong wouldn't let them live. You guys think about it. The next time I come in, if you don't agree, the outcome will be very tragic. For example, you 2 sisters, I think many people would want to spend money to spend a beautiful night with you. Ha ha. Wei Shidong stood up and laughed as he left. After Wei Shidong left, Zhu Wei and 7 Light Hao glanced at each other, sending each other a resolute look. This old man advises you guys not to have any bad thoughts. With me here, you can't do anything. At this moment, a red-robed old man said flatly. This red-robed old man was Wei Shidong's subordinate, a stellar domain lord-level cultivator. Even if Zhu Wei and 7 Light Hao teamed up, they wouldn't be his match. Plus, there were 3 other middle-aged men in black armor in the meeting room. All 3 of them were stellar kings and stellar lords. Previously, it was these 4 people who had barged into the Azure Dragon Manor, killed and heavily injured Zhu Wei's subordinates at an extremely fast speed, and brought the 4 of them here. Zhu Wei's chest was filled with anger when he thought of his good brothers who had been drinking with him being killed by these people. He wished he could immediately perish together with these people. However, his rationality suppressed his anger. After traveling the universe for so many years, Zhu Wei had long understood that nothing was certain until the very last moment. He knew that Yang Tian would definitely come in the next 2 days. He didn't know if he would make it in time. Under the catalysis of Yang Tian's mental power, the cells in Chrissy's wound quickly split and grew, healing in less than 10 minutes. During the process of treating Qi Lishi, Yang Tian also rejoiced for Qi Lishi. This slash did not cut off her head. Furthermore, this slash also carried some kind of energy. Perhaps the cultivator who attacked Qi Lishi was holding back because he saw that Qi Lishi was not a cultivator. After more than 10 minutes, the hospital still did not send a car over. Yang Tian felt that it was very strange, so he asked Bell to contact them again. The results made Yang Tian very angry because the nearby hospital refused to come and treat them. The situation was very obvious. The hospital was definitely afraid of something. Those who dared to touch 7 Light Rain and the Rainbow Sisters were definitely a powerful force, and it was very likely those people from the big families. Cough cough cough. After being treated by Yang Tian, Qi Lishi coughed and coughed out the blood in her lungs. At this time, Qi Lishi could finally speak. Who did it? Yang Tian frowned and asked. Qi Lishi coughed again and replied in a hoarse voice. Brother Wei said it was someone from the Hong Yu family, but it's not that simple. I seem to have heard them mention the Wei Shi family, and they also mention the name Wei Shi Datong. Wei Shi Datong? Wei Shi Datong is the successor of the Wei Shi family. Although he is young, he has already started to handle the family's affairs. The Merchant Alliance is now controlled by the Wei Shi family. Merchant Alliance? Yang Tian still had a good impression of the Universe Merchant Alliance. Because of its existence, the business competition in the universe became more fair. Qi Lishi was 7 Light Rain's assistant, and also Zhu Wei's wife, so she could be considered one of them. Qi Lishi knew a lot of things. After Qi Lishi finished speaking, Yang Tian asked Bell to check the location of the Kaitra Merchant Alliance's headquarters. This incident happened not long ago, and Yang Tian was sure that 7 Light Rain and the rest were brought to the Merchant Alliance's territory. Zhu Wei's son, Zhu Chen, was very sensible. Seeing that Yang Tian was done asking, he crawled over and said to Yang Tian, "Uncle Yang, please save my father." "Don't worry. Your father will be fine. Take care of yourselves, I will be back in a while." With that, Yang Tian left in a flash. Both of them had micro-intelligent robots in their bodies. As long as it was not a fatal injury, they would slowly recover. Have you thought it through? Do you agree to my conditions, or do you want to give up your lives? The door of the Merchant Alliance's meeting room was suddenly pushed open, and Wei Shidatong, who had left not long ago, walked in and asked with a frown. 7 Light Rain said, "Your Merchant Alliance should not be lacking in money, right? For the Shuangjiao Group to be chosen by the Merchant Alliance, I am really honored." Wei Shidatong shook his head and said, "Don't underestimate your own company. After our evaluation, it is the company with the most potential for development in the future. Clothing, beverages, all kinds of delicacies, hotels. Recently, you have invested in many high-tech companies, and have the ability to manufacture machines and equipment. According to reliable sources, you are preparing to produce storage tools, and want to popularize these tools so that everyone can have one. There are also teleportation discs, runic treasures. You actually have the ability to manufacture runic treasures. This is very surprising to us." After Wei Shidatong finished speaking, 7 Light Rain and 7 Kai frowned. This was mentioned in the message that Yang Tian sent to them a few years ago. In fact, the most important task that Yang Tian gave them was to prepare for the construction of the family castle, and the production of storage tools and so on were all mentioned by Yang Tian in passing. Yang Tian had the help of the strange program, and it was not difficult to produce these things. These things designed by the strange program were even more convenient and easy to use than the current products, and could be promoted among ordinary people. If this matter was successful, what kind of situation would it be? It was estimated that all the business companies in the universe would submit to the Shuangjiao Group, and by then, the wealth that the Shuangjiao Group had could even open a universe bank. Such a matter made Wei Shidatong's blood boil just thinking about it. Of course, he had to first obtain the key technology. The two sisters did not expect that such a confidential matter would be known by Wei Shidatong. Obviously, there was a mole around them. Who was it? The 4 of them looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. Wei Shidatong smiled and waved his hand when he saw the look in their eyes. At this time, a beautiful young woman walked in. Ji Shu Bei Bei. Seeing this beautiful woman, Qi Guanghao could not help but call out. This beautiful woman was called Ji Shu Bei Bei, and was from the Ji Shu family. She looked similar to Ji Shu Lanlan in history. After calling out, Qi Guanghao understood everything and lowered his head dejectedly. At this time, he remembered that one time when he brought Ji Shu Bei Bei out to play, he bragged that, "Storage bracelets are very simple, we can also make them." Perhaps it was this sentence that leaked the secret. Ji Shu Bei Bei looked at Qi Guanghao with an apologetic gaze and said lightly, "Qi Guanghao, you are indeed very hard-working, but in this universe, you are only an ordinary cultivator. I want a man with top cultivation talent. I am sorry, you are not suitable. I hope you can cooperate with us. The Ji Shu family will not mistreat you in the future." This is really interesting. Even the Ji Shu family is involved. As soon as Ji Shu Bei Bei finished speaking, a young man's voice suddenly sounded in the meeting room. Hearing this familiar voice, Qi Guanghao was shocked and looked towards the direction of the voice, and saw Yang Tian standing in the innermost corner of the meeting room with a smile. Chapter 590. Yang Tian's appearance shocked everyone present. For Seven Light Rain and the others, it was a pleasant surprise. However, for exhilarating and the others, it was a shock. This was because they had not sensed Yang Tian's appearance. What did this mean? This meant that Yang Tian's cultivation base was so high that they had not been able to sense it. Although he had not successfully broken through to the great astral god grade, and the process of killing Tian Hun had become very vague in his mind, Yang Tian had still gained a lot. This was especially true in terms of his understanding of spatial energy. Upon seeing everyone's shocked expressions, Yang Tian pointed at exhilarating and the 4-star grade subordinates and asked faintly, "You guys, who made a move at the Azure Dragon Manor?" Exhilarating and his 4 subordinates, as well as Jishu and Beibei, looked bewildered. When he saw that no one answered Yang Tian, Seven Light How raised his hand and pointed at the 4-star grade cultivators who had brought them here. "Brother Yang, it's the 4 of them." Yang Tian turned his head and looked at Seven Light How unhappily. After meeting Yang Tian's gaze, Seven Light How lowered his head guiltily. Because the reason why such a thing happened was because of his vanity. "Ha ha! These 4 people are not my men. You guys can take your time to sort this out." Exhilarating suddenly chuckled and distanced himself from the 4 of them. After saying that, he turned around and got ready to leave. However, before he could walk out of the door, he realized that his body was bound by a powerful force. He could not move at all. After using his mind power to bind exhilarating, Yang Tian walked to the conference table and sat down. He smiled and said, "If we don't get to the bottom of this today, don't even think about leaving." After saying that, Yang Tian turned his head and looked at the 4-star grade cultivators. The 4 of them looked at Yang Tian and frowned. Their expressions were very grave. Although they did not sense any powerful energy undulations from Yang Tian's body, their instincts told them that this person before them was very dangerous. The 4 of them felt the same way that Yang Tian had felt when he had faced Tian Hun. A cultivator's instincts were very accurate. Under Yang Tian's cold gaze, the red-robed old man, who had the highest cultivation base, gritted his teeth and said, "We are only following orders." "Whose orders?" Yang Tian asked. This person was a cultivator at the Stellar Domain Lord level. Yang Tian noticed that his red robe was embroidered with inconspicuous runes. It was obvious that this person was a talisman Dao expert. Hearing Yang Tian's commanding tone, a hint of anger flashed in the red-robed old man's eyes. However, he suppressed it and replied calmly, "Hongyu clan. Hongyu clan, and your Jishu clan." Yang Tian turned his head and carefully observed Jishu Beibei. Jishu Beibei was indeed very beautiful. It was no wonder that Qi Guanghao had been infatuated with her. When she heard Yang Tian mention the Jishu family, Jishu Beibei became a little nervous. In Jishu Beibei's eyes, Yang Tian might not be emitting a powerful energy fluctuation, but he possessed a strange aura that caused her to be unable to breathe. "You can leave," Yang Tian said faintly after sizing up Jishu Beibei. Jishu Beibei was stunned for a moment before she heaved a sigh of relief. She immediately turned around and walked out quickly. She walked past exhilarating, who was still struggling but could not speak. When she reached the door, she heard Yang Tian say, "Tell Jishu Wudi that the person your family has been looking for a long time is with me." When she heard Yang Tian say this, Jishu Beibei turned around and asked doubtfully, "Our family isn't looking for anyone." Jishu Beibei looked at Yang Tian with an innocent look on her face. She was very adorable. Perhaps she was just faking it. Some beautiful women were very good at making use of their asset. When Qi Guanghao saw Jishu Beibei's appearance, he felt very uncomfortable. Back then, it was precisely because he saw Jishu Beibei's innocent appearance that his heart was moved. Jishu Beibei had not approached Qi Guanghao of her own accord. It was Qi Guanghao who had approached her and inadvertently revealed the secret. When Yang Tian saw Jishu Beibei's adorable look, he did not feel anything. Instead, he said faintly, "Just tell Jishu Wudi what I said." The person Yang Tian had mentioned was actually not a person, but a corpse. It was Jishu Lanlin's corpse. This matter had happened a long time ago, so it was normal that Jishu Beibei could not recall it right away. All right. Jishu Beibei agreed to Yang Tian's request and walked out the door. Why did you let her go, big brother Yang? Qi Guanghao asked in confusion. Yang Tian ignored Qi Guanghao. Instead, he looked at the red-robed old man and the other 3 Stargrade cultivators and said with a smile, "Now, it's your turn." Before Yang Tian could finish speaking, the red-robed old man suddenly pounced on him. The red-robed old man appeared before Yang Tian almost instantly. At that moment, a short blade engraved with runes appeared in the red-robed old man's hand. However, before the tip of the blade could touch Yang Tian's body, the little blue dragon moved. Although it did not transform into a huge dragon, the little blue dragon was still very powerful. It was not something this Stargrade cultivator could compare to. The little blue dragon shook its head and released a powerful force that struck the red-robed old man's chest. Bang! 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 Several loud sounds were heard as the red-robed old man's body passed through several solid walls and flew out of the building. With a flash of green, the little blue dragon immediately chased after him. Although he was hit by the little blue dragon, the red-robed old man was not fatally wounded. The red robe that he was wearing had a powerful defense and saved his life. After he was knocked out of the building, the red-robed old man's robe lit up with a red light and he suddenly disappeared. The little blue dragon instantly appeared where the red-robed old man had disappeared and slammed with its dragon claw. Pung! Another loud sound. This claw had knocked the red-robed old man out of the building. The red-robed old man's body quickly fell and crashed into the entrance of the Merchant Alliance, creating a crater that was dozens of meters wide. The little blue dragon looked down at the crater and opened its mouth to spit out a stream of dragon flames. Boom! The dragon flames fell into the crater, and the red-robed old man at the bottom of the crater did not even have time to react before he was burned to ashes. The other 3 subordinates of the red-robed old man wanted to escape when the red-robed old man pounced at Yang Tian. But as soon as they moved, they were blasted into a bloody mist by Yang Tian's 3 fingers. The Weishi family did not only have these few star-level cultivators. After knowing that Shu Beibei had left, they immediately informed the Weishi family about the situation here. Exhilarating was very important to the Weishi family. The Weishi family's cultivators that were left on planet Kaitra immediately gathered at the Merchant Alliance's building. After the little blue dragon had killed the red-robed old man, it immediately returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. Only then did Yang Tian loosen the restrictions on Exhilarating's spiritual power. Exhilarating, who could move and speak slowly, turned his head with difficulty and looked at Yang Tian with a cold smile. He gritted his teeth and said, "If you kill me, you will die as well. I am the successor of the Weishi family." Yang Tian ignored Wei Shidatong's threat and appeared in front of Wei Shidatong in a flash. He grabbed Wei Shidatong's neck and twisted it forcefully. With a crack sound, the successor of Wei Shi clan lost his life. "Brother Yang, this is bad." Zhu Wei walked up and said worriedly when he saw Exhilarating thrown to the ground by Yang Tian. Zhu Wei did not expect that Yang Tian would not care about the consequences. He had killed such an important person from the Weishi family so casually. Yang Tian, on the other hand, had an indifferent expression. He took out a tissue from his storage bracelet and wiped his hands as he said with a smile, "If you want to kill me, then so be it. The Weishi family knows that it was me, Yang Tian, who did it. At least they won't come looking for trouble with us for now." Chapter 591. When Yang Tian and the others walked out of the trade union building, they were surrounded by at least a few hundred cultivators. Among these people, the strongest cultivator was only at the peak Stargrade realm, the same as the red-robed old man. Actually, in those large family clans, there were very few superstar realm and above cultivators who would work as lackeys for these family clans. Firstly, superstar realm and above cultivators were very few in number among the huge group of cultivators. There were many family clans and powers in the universe, and each family clan only had a few of them. Secondly, these people were rare powerhouses with pride and did not want to lower their status to serve these family clans. It would be great if they could cultivate freely. Thirdly, the price of raising a superstar realm cultivator was too high. After Yang Tian walked out of the door and glanced at these star-grade cultivators, he no longer concealed his cultivation base. Instead, a powerful energy erupted from his body. After knowing Yang Tian's cultivation base, the cultivators surrounding Yang Tian and the others were alarmed and couldn't help but retreat. The encirclement expanded many times in an instant. Yang Tian smiled faintly and led 7 Light Rain and the others in the direction of the Azure Dragon Manor. The people in front of Yang Tian and the others took the initiative to make way for them. Nobody dared to step forward and make a move. Half an hour later, Yang Tian and the others returned to the Azure Dragon Manor smoothly. "Big brother Yang, you are finally back. I was so worried." Zhu Liangshi ran over as soon as he returned to the manor, and said with a sigh of relief. "Where did you run off to?" Yang Tian asked with a smile as he looked at Zhu Liangshi's chubby face. After Yang Tian said that, Zhu Liangshi smiled bitterly. "You can't blame me. I was captured by the people here and almost killed. I had to spend a lot of effort to explain the situation." After Zhu Liangshi said that, 2 injured guards in black armor walked over quickly and nodded at Zhu Wei, who was standing beside Yang Tian. Zhu Liangshi turned around and pointed at the 2 of them. "Big brother Yang, it's them. These 2 fellows are very treacherous." Before Zhu Liangshi could finish, Yang Tian smiled and said, "It is all a misunderstanding. Who told you to run around?" Zhu Liang smiled helplessly. Actually, he wanted to blame Yang Tian for abandoning him and running away. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to say anything. While they were talking, Zhu Wei's wife, Qi Lishi, walked over with her son whose leg had been set. Seeing that his wife and son were fine, Zhu Wei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. From Zhu Wei's point of view, the people who attacked them wouldn't attack ordinary humans. He didn't expect these people to be so ruthless. There were corpses everywhere in the manor, and some guards were seriously injured and unconscious. Yang Tian personally began to treat these injured and unconscious guards. Most of these people had their bodies invaded by energy. If there were no more powerful cultivators to help them expel the energy from their bodies, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. While Yang Tian and Zhu Wei were treating the injured, 7 Light Rain called for another group of people to start cleaning and repairing the manor. Rainbow paid attention to the Twin Jiao Corporation's current business situation and made all kinds of arrangements according to the previous plan. After Yang Tian treated the injured guards, he lay down on a deck chair by the pool with a gloomy face. As for Qi Guanghao, he stood in front of Yang Tian anxiously. Ever since they returned, Yang Tian had ignored 7 Light Hao. Seeing that Yang Tian was about to teach 7 Light Hao a lesson, no one dared to come over and join in the fun. They knew that Yang Tian was very dissatisfied with 7 Light Hao. This guy had been too complacent for the past 2 years. Someone should teach him a lesson. Apart from Yang Tian, no one here could teach him a lesson. This was the reason why Yang Tian left Yu Yangtian in northern Spill Star region. If he were to acknowledge Yu Yangtian as his son now and keep him by his side, if he took Yu Yangtian with him now, he would most likely end up like 7 Light Hao. His sense of superiority would grow stronger and stronger until he became complacent. Even if Yang Tian had strict requirements for Jade Sun, the people under Yang Tian would most likely treat Jade Sun like an ancestor. Big brother Yang Tian, I was wrong. After standing in front of Yang Tian for a long time, 7 Light Hao mustered up his courage and looked guiltily at Yang Tian. Go back to the academy. If there's nothing going on, you're not allowed to come out. Yang Tian glanced at Seven Light How and said indifferently. Seven Light How hadn't even reached the planetary region Lord grade yet. Clearly, he hadn't worked as hard as he had in the past 2 years. Yes. Seven Light How agreed helplessly before turning around and walking out of the manor. After taking a few steps, he heard Yang Tian say, "If you're still stuck at this level at the end of the year, I'll be very disappointed." Seven Light How couldn't help but stop and turn around to look at Yang Tian. "Big brother Yang, I won't let you down." After saying that, Seven Light How turned around resolutely and walked towards the manor's entrance. At this moment, Seven Light How was very happy. Because Yang Tian had such strict requirements for Seven Light How, Seven Light How understood that Yang Tian hadn't given up on him. 10 days later, Yang Tian personally handed a list of materials that the strange program had created to Seven Light Rain. Although there were hundreds of materials recorded on this list, the quantity of each material wasn't very high. However, the prices of these materials were very expensive. Seven Light Rain calculated that it would cost about 10 trillion star crystals. Because the 2 sacred halls were about to have an ultimate battle, the purchasing power of star crystals had increased by a lot. Things that used to cost 10,000 star crystals could now be bought for 7,000 to 8,000 star crystals. Seven Light Rain completed the calculations and placed the order. After asking the merchant to deliver the items to the designated location, he asked curiously, "Big brother Yang, what are these materials used for?" Yang Tian didn't want to say now, so he smiled and said, "You'll know when the time comes." Seven Light Rain pursed his lips and didn't ask any more. Now that everything has been arranged, Yang Tianjing was about to suggest that everyone gather and have a gathering. Everyone had been very tired these past few days. Before Yang Tian could say anything, Bell notified Yang Tian that he had received a message from Soli. It was a voice message. Soli only said one sentence, 5 words, "Yang Tian, it's starting." Yang Tian narrowed his eyes and said to Seven Light Rain, "I have something to do and have to leave for a while. You guys go to that secret location and don't let those people take advantage of you." Seven Light Rain knew that Yang Tian had something important to do and nodded, "Don't worry." In these 10 days, as Yang Tian expected, the Wei Shi family didn't react at all. Yang Tian was a great Star Lord and had the little blue dragon at the same level. At this crucial moment, the Wei Shi family could only endure. While Yang Tian had already started his plan, in the vast starry sky, a huge devouring bug was flying toward the Superstar Divine Temple at an extremely fast speed. The gigantic Eternal Temple sat on the devouring insect's back. In order to speed up, Black Talisman Lord, who was controlling the devouring bug, constantly used rune treasures to open space passages in the direction of the devouring bug. Many people had already gathered outside the star field where the Superstar Divine Temple was located. Most of these people were the upper echelons of various families, and their cultivation realms weren't low. In addition, there were many hidden powerhouses like the Boundless Star Lord. The winner of the 2 temples was about to be decided. Everyone was very curious and wanted to witness this great battle. Of course, they might have to pay a huge price to watch this show. In the goddess palace of the Superstar Divine Temple, Qin Fei sat on a high seat. Below her, dozens of great priests were prostrating. This was the first time the great priests had shown such great respect to Qin Fei. Among the kneeling great priests were Great Priest Mei Chen, Hong Yujiu, and Great Priest Tai Yu. None of these great priests had red hair. Looking at the great priests below her, Qin Fei frowned and clenched her fists on the armrest of her seat. "Lady Goddess, are you ready?" Hong Yujiu suddenly raised his head, looked at the high and mighty Qin Fei, and asked loudly. Chapter 592. Can you find someone else to replace me? Qin Fei gritted her teeth and said under the gazes of the high priests. At this moment, Qin Fei's eyes were filled with nervousness, anger, and helplessness. She finally understood that the goddess of the Superstar Divine Temple was not just a decoration. She played a crucial role in the survival of the Superstar Divine Temple. In the face of Qin Fei's tactful refusal, Hong Yuzhou said, "Goddess, this is your destiny. In this era, no one can replace you." Although it sounded nice and the high priests were very respectful, Qin Fei understood that she was still a tool used by these high priests. As soon as Hong Yuzhou's voice fell, the light shining on the Superstar Divine Temple suddenly dimmed. This was because the devouring insect carrying the Temple of Eternal Life had appeared and blocked part of the light shining on the Superstar Divine Temple. Black Talisman Lord had fed the devouring insect until it turned golden, allowing the devouring insect to reach the peak of the Great Star Lord realm. The devouring insect's size was comparable to a planet. If it wanted to, it could devour a planet larger than itself like a snake. The devouring insect stopped about 10,000 kilometers away from the Superstar Divine Temple. A long alarm sounded throughout the Superstar Divine Temple. This was one of the few times since the Superstar Divine Temple was built. However, this was the most dangerous time for the Superstar Divine Temple. Rumble, when the alarm sounded, the entire Superstar Divinity Temple began to tremble. If one was outside the Superstar Divine Temple, they would see that the entire Superstar Divine Temple was transforming at an extremely fast speed. In fact, this huge Superstar Divinity Temple was a large spaceship, just like the Family Fortress. The Superstar Divine Temple was originally triangular in shape, but when it transformed, a silver-white triangular body extended from its bottom. At the same time, the temple's palaces separated and formed blocks that could move locally. They moved in a regular pattern and slowly descended. The silver-white triangular body that extended from the bottom also separated and formed a shell that quickly enveloped the Superstar Divine Temple. In less than 10 minutes, the Superstar Divine Temple had turned into a huge, triangular silver-white spaceship. The original palace buildings were now wrapped in a silver-white shell. This was no ordinary spaceship, as its silvery white exterior was covered with runes. These runes gave it a powerful defensive ability. After the transformation of the temple was complete, the hatch at the bottom opened, and countless small spaceships and a large number of cultivators poured out. Cultivators at the Stargrade realm were not qualified to participate in this decisive battle. They had already been sent out by the empty god High Priest. Among these Stargrade cultivators, many of them had strong talents in certain aspects. If the Superstar Divine Temple was defeated, their mission would be to rebuild the Superstar Divine Temple in the future. The small spaceships that emerged were not used for battle. Their function was to set up rune arrays. There were runes on every spaceship. Countless small spaceships quickly flew to the designated location. The runes outside the spaceships suddenly lit up, forming a huge rune energy layer that wrapped around the spaceships transformed from the Superstar God Temple. There wasn't just one layer of defense, but one layer over another. It was as if there was another bubble within a bubble. Even a great star god-grade powerhouse wouldn't be able to break through such a tight defense in a short time. A great star god-grade powerhouse wouldn't be able to, but a huge devouring bug could. Goddess Shi-Chun looked at the layers of defense of the Superstar Divine Temple with disdain from the high observatory of the Eternal Life Temple. It looked like the Superstar Divine Temple was prepared to defend to the death. If the outer layer of defense was breached, it could activate a huge teleportation array and allow the entire temple to leave this place in an instant. Goddess Shi-Chun had thought of all the possibilities. Her goal was to force the Superstar Divine Temple into a corner and force it to use its last resort. Goddess Shi-Chun had promised Yang Tian that she wouldn't hurt Qin Fei. However, she couldn't care less if the Superstar Divine Temple hurt their goddess. Goddess Shi-chun didn't know why, but she suddenly thought of Yang Tian. According to her plan, Yang Tian had already completed his task. Even if Yang Tian became a great star god-grade powerhouse, it didn't matter to her anymore. Goddess Shi-chun had been quietly watching the Super Star Divine Temple's preparations, her eyes filled with confidence. This time, she would definitely achieve her goal. The powerhouses who came out of the Super Star Divine Temple were all Superstar Realm and above. There were hundreds of Great Star God-grade cultivators, thousands of Great Star Lord cultivators, and tens of thousands of Superstar Realm cultivators. The Eternal Life Temple wasn't to be outdone. In fact, they had even more. It was because of the existence of protocells that the two temples were able to create so many powerhouses. At least 80% of these people had red hair. Under the command of Great Priest Empty God, tens of thousands of temple cultivators in black armor hovered in front of the Super Star Divine Temple's spaceship. At the same time, the Shrine of Eternal Life had also completed their preparations. More cultivators clad in silver-white armor poured out. Devouring Bug let out a muffled howl when it saw so much fresh food in front of it. Its voice shook the universe. It had no choice but to control its strong desire to devour. The howl sounded like a declaration of war, but it was actually a venting sound. Before Devouring Bug's howl had even died down, Goddess Shi-chun, who was standing on the observatory, waved her hand and pointed at the Super Star Divine Temple. The Eternal Life Temple's cultivators began to rush toward the Super Star Divine Temple at an extremely fast speed. On the other side of the Super Star Divine Temple, Great Priest Empty God waved his hand as well. Both sides had a supervisory team, made up of Great Star God-grade powerhouses. During the battle, if anyone tried to escape, they would be killed by the supervisory team. Therefore, tens of thousands of Superstar Realm cultivators had no choice but to bite the bullet and charge toward the other side. Even though they knew that they would soon die. From afar, the scene was simply too spectacular. Yang Tian, who was dressed in blue armor, arrived at this moment. Yang Tian looked ahead and saw spaceships of all sizes parked tens of thousands of kilometers away from the battlefield. Some Superstar Realm powerhouses even stood on top of the spaceships and watched with special binoculars in their hands. Yang Tian also saw spaceships with media logos printed on them. He did not need to guess to know that this battle would definitely be broadcasted live on the internet. There were many spaceships and many cultivators watching the battle. They all formed a circle with a diameter of 100,000 kilometers. It was likely that everyone who could afford it had arrived at the scene. Yang Tian only glanced at these people. With the help of the strange program, his hands flashed and rune energy was released from his hands. The space in front of him fluctuated. Just like that, Yang Tian suddenly disappeared from the spot. Soon, Yang Tian had appeared outside the giant spaceship that the Superstar Divine Temple had transformed into without anyone noticing. Yang Tian had been removed from the list by Great Priest Empty God. Therefore, even if he had the token that represented his identity as a divine general, he could not directly enter the giant spaceship in front of him. However, with the help of the strange program, all of this was not a problem. After collecting enough rune information, the ability of the strange program to crack it increased by countless times compared to before. At this moment, Yang Tian raised his hands again. As his hands flashed quickly, waves of rune energy were released from his hands. Suddenly, Yang Tian was enveloped by a wave of rune energy. Yang Tian chuckled. His hands were still flashing as he rushed into the outermost defense circle of the Superstar Divine Temple. He passed through dozens of layers of defense at an extremely fast speed and entered the giant spaceship through the opened entrance. As soon as he entered the spaceship, Yang Tian felt as if he had returned to the outside of the giant spaceship. In front of him was a flat land. The sky was still the scene of the universe. The observatory was still the tallest building. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.